What if you could stop for just a moment and admit the truth that so many of us carry in silence? Life feels heavy. The days blur together. You wake up with a mind already running, a heart already tired, and a body pulled in 10 different directions. Stress never truly leaves. It only hides for a while. Bills pile up, relationships strain, news cycles scream, and the pressure to succeed gnaws at every quiet second. You smile to others, but inside there is a question that won't go away. How much longer can I keep this up? In modern life, we are told to chase harder, to push stronger, to never stop moving. We seek comfort in money, in entertainment, in temporary distractions, yet the relief is fleeting. Like drinking salt water when thirsty, the more we consume, the emptier we feel. The world teaches us to run faster, but no one teaches us how to stop. No one shows us how to breathe. The truth is simple but piercing. We are not only exhausted in our bodies, we are exhausted in our souls. But imagine another way. Imagine walking through a storm and feeling the wind against your face without fear. Imagine carrying responsibilities, but not carrying the crushing weight of worry. Imagine relationships where compassion softens anger, where understanding replaces endless conflict. Imagine waking up with a steady peace, not because life is perfect, but because you have learned the secret of living in harmony with it. This is not a dream. It is a doorway that has always stood before you. That doorway is the wisdom of mindfulness, compassion, and letting go. It is the timeless path taught by the Buddha, not as a religion for the few, but as a medicine for the human heart. This journey does not ask you to believe in something distant or abstract. It asks you to look directly at your own life, to see where suffering arises, and to discover the freedom hidden in plain sight. Buddhist teaching calls it the path to liberation, but in simple words, it means this: you do not need to be trapped in stress, fear, and endless desire. You can learn a new way to live, here and now, in the middle of the same challenges. With a different state of mind, the stories you're about to hear will not be heavy with strange terms or distant rituals. They are woven for you in the language of everyday life, in the struggles of money, work, family, and identity. Each part begins with the pain you know well, digs into the roots that make it so sharp, and then opens a window to the solution offered by Buddhist wisdom. This is not about escaping life. It is about learning how to meet life with open eyes, open heart, and unshakable calm. So let us begin this long journey together. We will walk step by step through the great pains of modern existence: stress that grits the body, money that keeps us awake at night, relationships that break the heart, anxiety that clouds the mind. In each pain, you will also hear the solution: the practice of mindfulness, the courage of compassion, the strength of letting go, the joy of gratitude, and the wisdom of balance. Each solution is not a command, but an invitation. An invitation to test for yourself, to practice in small steps, to see your life slowly transform. And as we move forward, you will feel the rhythm of a deeper story. A story of suffering that turns into awakening. A story of being trapped and then finding the key. That key is already in your hand. The only question left is whether you are ready to use it. Now, let us take the first step into the very first pain of our age, the restless weight of stress, and the freedom hidden within it. Stress is the silent epidemic of our time. It is everywhere, creeping into our mornings, our workdays, our family dinners, and our sleepless nights. For many people, stress has become the air we breathe. The first thought after waking is not gratitude, but a rush of worry. Deadlines, bills, traffic, expectations, fears. By the time we pour our first cup of coffee, our heart is already racing, as if we are being chased by an invisible enemy. This is not just a personal struggle. It is a shared disease of modern life. We live in a culture that glorifies busyness. If you are not rushing, you feel guilty. If you rest, you feel lazy. If you slow down, you fear being left behind. The world tells you that to matter, you must keep moving faster. So you push yourself harder each day, and yet peace always stays out of reach, like a horizon that never arrives. The human body was never designed for this constant pressure. Stress once served as a survival tool, a quick burst of energy to fight or flee from danger. But now, instead of a hungry tiger, it is an endless stream of emails. Instead of a single battle, it is bills that never end. Our nervous system, meant to protect us, has turned against us. Muscles tighten, digestion falters, sleep breaks, the mind spins. We call it normal, but deep down, we know this is not living. It is drowning. Imagine a person sitting at their desk, late into the night. The office is empty, the lights hum, the inbox overflows. Their body aches, but they cannot stop. They tell themselves, just one more task, just one more day. Yet weeks pass, months pass, and exhaustion grows. Or picture a mother who works 2 jobs, rushing from shift to shift, her mind never at rest, her heart heavy with the question, am I doing enough? Or a young man who seems to have everything: career, gadgets, friends online, but lies awake each night, staring at the ceiling, unable to quiet the storm inside. These are not strangers. These are us. We try to cure stress with temporary solutions. A drink after work, endless scrolling through social media, binge-watching shows late into the night. Sometimes even expensive vacations meant to escape. Yet when the glass is empty, when the screen goes dark, when the trip is over, stress is waiting like a shadow at the door. Why? Because we never addressed the root. We tried to soothe the symptom, but the fire still burns underneath. At the root of stress is a restless mind. A mind that is either replaying the past or rehearsing the future. A mind that clings to control, fearing what might happen and regretting what already did. This tug of war creates a pressure that crushes us. The Buddha called it the suffering of attachment. The more tightly we grasp, the more pain we feel. Stress is not only about workload or circumstance. It is about the mind's refusal to rest in the present. So what is the way out? The answer begins with one simple, radical act: to return to the present moment. This is the essence of mindfulness. When you bring your attention back to what is here and now, stress loses its grip. You realize that in this very breath, in this very heartbeat, you are safe. The past is gone, the future has not arrived, and the present is enough. Mindfulness is not a mystical ritual. It is the practice of noticing, washing dishes, and truly feeling the warm water, walking and noticing the ground beneath your feet, eating and tasting each bite instead of rushing to finish, breathing and feeling the rise and fall of your chest. These simple acts reconnect you with life as it actually is, not as your anxious mind imagines it. But mindfulness is not easy because the mind is like a wild horse. It runs in every direction, resisting the reins. At first, when you sit quietly and try to follow your breath, the storm feels louder. Thoughts scream for attention. Plans, regrets, judgments, worries. This is natural. It does not mean you are failing. It means you are finally seeing what was always there. With patience, with practice, the horse begins to calm. The thoughts still come, but you are no longer their prisoner. In Buddhist teaching, this practice is called observing without clinging. You watch the thought arise. I might fail. I am not enough. What if tomorrow is worse? And you let it pass like a cloud in the sky. You do not chase it. You do not fight it. You simply let it drift away. Over time, the clouds thin and the sky of your mind becomes clear. Stress no longer controls you because you are no longer holding it so tightly. To understand this more deeply, consider a metaphor. Imagine holding a glass of water. At first, it is light. Hold it for a minute, no problem. Hold it for an hour, and your arm aches. Hold it all day, and your arm is paralyzed. The weight has not changed, but the burden has. Stress is the same. A single worry, held too long, becomes unbearable. The solution is not to make life weightless, but to learn when to put the glass down. Mindfulness teaches us to set it down, to release the grip, to rest in the moment. There is also compassion, a forgotten medicine for stress. Much of our pressure comes from self-criticism. I should be better. I should do more. I should not make mistakes. This endless should becomes a whip in the hand of the mind. But Buddhist wisdom teaches that compassion begins with yourself. To breathe and say silently, "May I be at peace. May I be free from stress." To treat yourself not as an enemy to conquer, but as a friend to care for. This shift softens the heart, reduces the inner war, and allows stress to dissolve like ice in warm sunlight. Scientific studies now echo what Buddhism has taught for centuries. Mindfulness lowers cortisol, slows the heart rate, improves sleep, and reduces anxiety. Compassion practices activate regions of the brain linked to joy and resilience. But beyond science, the truth is felt in your bones. When you are present, when you are kind to yourself, life is lighter. Of course, mindfulness and compassion are not magic wands. Stress will not vanish overnight. Bills will still arrive. Jobs will still demand. Relationships will still challenge. But the difference is this: you will no longer drown. You will learn to float. The storm may rage, but inside you, a stillness remains. That stillness becomes your anchor. And from that anchor, you discover freedom. As we close this first step of our journey, remember this: stress is not your enemy. It is a messenger, pointing you toward the need for presence, compassion, and release. By listening to that message, you begin the path to peace. And yet, stress is only the first shadow we must face. Beyond it lies another pain that gnaws at countless hearts: the struggle with money. Not just the numbers in a bank account, but the fear, the craving, the endless hunger that money awakens. In our next chapter, we will walk into this painful territory and discover how ancient wisdom offers a surprising key to freedom. Let us look even closer at the reality of stress, not just in theory, but in the lives we live each day. Picture the typical morning for many people. The alarm rings often too early, and the first instinct is not to breathe or smile, but to reach for the phone. Instantly, the day begins with noise, emails, headlines, texts, reminders of what went wrong yesterday and what must be done today. Before even standing up, the heart is already beating fast, and the mind is pulled in a dozen directions. From that moment on, stress sets the rhythm. Like an unwanted drummer beating in your chest. We carry this pace into work. The office may look calm from outside, but inside, people are silently battling invisible storms. Deadlines pile up, bosses demand more, and the unspoken rule is clear: if you want to succeed, you must sacrifice your peace. The same culture creeps into schools, where students carry heavy backpacks, not only on their shoulders, but on their hearts. Even children are now diagnosed with stress-related conditions, once reserved for adults. This should shock us, but instead, it feels normal. That is how deep stress has woven itself into modern life. Some believe that if they just earn enough money or reach a certain position, stress will disappear. But how many times have we heard of people who achieve their goals only to feel emptier inside? Stress does not leave when circumstances change, because the root is not outside, it is inside. It lives in the restless mind, the grasping heart, the body always on edge. The Buddha described this restless state as the fire of craving and aversion. One moment, we crave success, recognition, comfort. The next moment, we resist failure, rejection, discomfort. Between these two forces, our hearts are pulled like a rope in a game of tug-of-war. No wonder we feel exhausted. The solution is not to eliminate all desires or avoid all challenges. The solution is to step out of the tug-of-war altogether, to release the rope, to stand in the middle with calm awareness. Think of a candle in a dark room. When the wind blows hard, the flame shakes wildly. But when the air becomes still, the flame shines steady and clear. Our mind is the flame. Stress is the wind. Mindfulness is the stillness that protects the light. Each time we pause, breathe, and notice the present moment, we create that stillness. And in that stillness, stress loses its power. One practical way to invite this stillness into daily life is through mindful breathing. You do not need hours, nor a special room. Even 30 seconds of conscious breathing can shift your state. Sit or stand, place a hand gently on your belly, and inhale slowly. Feel the air entering, lifting the hand. Exhale gently, feel the hand lower. That is all. A mind may wander, but gently bring it back to the breath. Over time, this simple act becomes a refuge. At work, in traffic, at home, anywhere you are, the breath is always with you. It is the most portable medicine you will ever find. Another practice is mindful walking. Instead of rushing from point A to point B, try walking slowly, feeling each step touch the earth. With each step, say silently, "I am here." This grounds you, reminding you that life is not only at the destination, but also in the journey. Even in a crowded city, even in a hallway at work, you can practice this. Step by step, breath by breath, stress loosens its grip. But mindfulness is only one part of the medicine. The second part is letting go. Many of us hold on tightly to control, believing that if we plan enough, work enough, worry enough, life will bend to our will. Yet reality often refuses to cooperate. The job is lost. A partner leaves. The diagnosis comes. The traffic jam ruins the schedule. And so long as we cling to the illusion of control, stress will always return. Letting go does not mean giving up. It means releasing the impossible task of controlling every outcome. It means doing your best in each moment, but then trusting the flow of life. Imagine carrying a heavy backpack filled with rocks. Every worry, every regret, every fear adds another stone. The longer you carry it, the heavier it feels. Letting go is simply setting down the backpack. The rocks remain, but you are no longer crushed beneath them. In Buddhist teaching, this practice is called non-attachment. You still care, you still act, you still love, but you do not cling. You love your children without trying to control every step they take. You work hard without making your self-worth depend on the outcome. You live with hope, but not with obsession. This freedom lightens the heart, and in that lightness, stress fades. There is also the healing power of compassion, not only for yourself, but for others. Stress often makes us self-centered. We become trapped in our own problems, replaying them over and over. But when we practice compassion, our perspective expands. We see that everyone is fighting their own battles. The coworker who snapped at you may be caring for a sick parent. The driver who cut you off may be rushing to the hospital. The stranger who looks fine may be carrying an invisible grief. When we remember this, anger softens, frustration eases, and stress transforms into understanding. To practice compassion, try a simple meditation known as loving kindness. Close your eyes, breathe, and silently repeat, "May I be peaceful. May I be healthy. May I be free from suffering." Then extend the wish outward. May my family be peaceful. May my colleagues be healthy. May all beings be free from suffering. At first, it may feel mechanical, but with repetition, the heart begins to change. Compassion grows, and with it, The burden of stress becomes lighter. Science now proves what spiritual masters have long known. Compassion increases oxytocin, the bonding hormone that lowers blood pressure and calms the nervous system. Mindfulness reduces anxiety and strengthens the immune system. Letting go improves resilience, helping people bounce back from setbacks faster. These are not abstract ideas. They are practical tools, as real as medicine for the body. So, how can you bring all of this into your daily life? Begin small. Start with one mindful breath each morning before touching your phone. Take one slow, conscious walk each day, even if it is just to the mailbox. When stress rises, pause and ask, "Can I put down this glass for a moment?" Before bed, whisper a wish of compassion for yourself and for someone else. These small seeds, planted each day, grow into a strong tree of peace. Over weeks and months, you will notice subtle shifts. The racing heart slows. The tight shoulders soften. The sleepless nights lessen. Stress may still knock at your door, but you no longer let it rule your home. You meet it with calm eyes, with steady breath, with open heart. This is freedom, not from life itself, but within life as it is. And so, as we complete this exploration of stress, we see that the answer is not to fight harder or escape farther. The answer is to return to the present, to return to compassion, to return to the simple truth that peace is not found by running, but by stopping, by breathing, by letting go. This lesson prepares us for the next great struggle of human life, money. For many, money is the number one source of stress, the chain that binds every choice, the mirror of self-worth. It is not only about survival, but about identity. In the chapters ahead, we will step into this painful world of financial pressure and discover how Buddhist wisdom can untangle its grip. If stress is the shadow that haunts our days, money is the fire that fuels it. Together, let us walk into that fire and learn how to turn it into light. Money. Few words in our language carry such weight, such power, such endless worry. From the moment we are old enough to understand the world, money becomes the silent measure of our worth. It decides where we live, what we eat, how we dress, whether we can care for our families, and even how we see ourselves. It is said that money makes the world go round. But for countless people, money is also the chain that binds, the fire that burns, and the storm that never ends. Asterisk. For many, the first thought in the morning is not peace, but panic. Do I have enough to pay the bills? For others, the fear is more subtle, yet just as consuming. What if I lose what I've earned? What if tomorrow takes it all away? This fear knows no boundaries. The poor struggle with not having enough. The wealthy struggle with never feeling secure. In both cases, the mind is restless, trapped in a cycle of fear and desire. Let us step into the life of a young couple living in a small apartment. They work long hours, but rent rises faster than their paychecks. Each month feels like a tightrope walk, with one unexpected bill threatening to collapse everything. Nights are restless. Conversations turn into arguments. The dream of happiness fades under the heavy shadow of financial stress. Or picture an older man who has saved for decades, yet lies awake, terrified of losing it all in a sudden crash. He checks the markets obsessively, his heart rising and falling with every number. He has money, yet no peace. And then there is the teenager, already comparing their worth to others by the brands they wear, the gadgets they own, the lifestyle they display online. Money, or the lack of it, becomes the judge of identity before life has even begun. The pain of money is not only about numbers. It is about what money symbolizes: safety, success, acceptance, power. In a culture like America's, where personal value is often measured by possessions, the pressure is enormous. If you do not earn enough, you feel like a failure. If you earn plenty, you fear losing it. If others have more, you feel less. If you have more, you fear their envy. It is a trap with no exit, a hunger that can never be filled. The Buddha saw this hunger clearly. He spoke of tanha, the thirst that drives human suffering. Money is one of the clearest forms of this thirst. The more we drink, the thirstier we become. Even when we have enough for food, shelter, and comfort, the mind whispers, more. And when we chase this more, we often sacrifice the very things money was meant to support: time, health, love, and peace. But does this mean money itself is evil? No, money is a tool, like fire. In the hands of wisdom, it can warm, cook, and protect. In the hands of ignorance, it burns, destroys, and enslaves. The suffering comes not from money itself, but from our relationship with it. When money becomes our master instead of our servant, stress and misery follow. So how do we free ourselves? The first step is to see money for what it is: temporary, unstable, never truly ours. Wealth can vanish in a day. Jobs can disappear. Markets can crash. Even if money stays, we cannot carry it beyond death. This recognition is not meant to create fear, but clarity. When we see money as impermanent, we stop clinging to it as our ultimate source of safety. We begin to look for a deeper kind of wealth, one that cannot be taken away. This deeper wealth is inner contentment. The Buddha taught that true richness is not having much, but needing little. When we reduce the endless desires of the mind, money loses its power to control us. Think of someone who always wants the newest car, the biggest house, the latest device. No matter how much they earn, they remain poor in spirit, always chasing. Now imagine someone who lives simply, who delights in small joys, who measures success not by possessions, but by peace of heart. That person, even with modest means, is rich beyond measure. Contentment does not mean laziness. It does not mean refusing to work or earn. It means shifting the foundation of happiness from having more to being enough. When you live from this place, work becomes lighter. You work not from desperation, but from a sense of purpose. Money becomes a tool, not a tyrant. Another practice that transforms our relationship with money is generosity. This may sound strange. How can giving away what we fear losing bring peace? Yet this is one of the deepest truths of the spiritual path. When we give even a little, we loosen the chains of attachment. The grip of greed softens, the fear of scarcity eases, and the heart opens. Imagine the relief of a clenched fist finally relaxing. That is what generosity feels like in the soul. Consider a person who donates part of their paycheck to help a neighbor in need, or someone who buys food for a stranger, or simply a child who shares a toy. The amount does not matter. What matters is the spirit. Each act of generosity trains the heart to trust that we already have enough. This trust weakens the power money holds over us. In Buddhism, this practice is called Dharma, and it is considered the foundation of all spiritual growth. Let us not forget gratitude. In the chase for more, we often overlook what we already have. Gratitude is the practice of pausing, noticing, and saying, "This is enough." A warm meal, a safe place to rest, a friend to talk to. These are treasures greater than gold. When we cultivate gratitude, the craving for more diminishes. We realize that happiness was never waiting in the next paycheck or the next purchase. It was already here, hidden in plain sight. Think of a family gathered at a simple dinner table. The meal is modest, but there is laughter, there is love. Compare that to a wealthy banquet where people sit in silence, suspicious, stressed, empty. Which table is richer? Gratitude reveals the answer. Of course, money problems are real. Bills must be paid. Debts can feel crushing. Poverty is a painful reality. Buddhism does not deny this. It does not say, forget your needs. It says, meet your needs with wisdom, without letting fear and craving consume you. Even in struggle, you can find moments of peace by grounding yourself in the present, by practicing generosity, by breathing gratitude. These moments of peace are not small. They are the seeds of freedom in modern society. Financial advice often focuses only on strategies: budgeting, investing, saving. These are important. But without addressing the mind, strategies will never bring peace. You may master every technique, yet still feel poor inside. The true solution begins in the heart. When the heart learns contentment, generosity, and gratitude, money loses its power to torment. Then and only then can financial strategies truly serve you instead of enslaving you. So pause, take a breath, and ask yourself, what is my relationship with money? Am I its master or its servant? Do I live chasing, fearing, comparing, or do I live simply, gratefully, freely? The answer to these questions shapes not only your bank account, but your soul. As we continue this journey, we will go deeper. We will face not only the stress of bills and the hunger for more, but also the way money infects relationships, distorts love, and drives people apart. And we will discover how Buddhist wisdom, with its timeless simplicity, offers a way to heal even these wounds. Money does not only weigh on individuals, it also places strain on the bonds between people. Families fight over it, couples break apart because of it, friendships collapse in its shadow. It is astonishing how a few numbers on a bank statement can stir such deep emotions: fear, anger, jealousy, resentment. Many who have sat in a courtroom over inheritance disputes or argued late into the night with a partner know how destructive money can be when it becomes more important than love. Picture a husband and wife who once fell in love freely. Over time, bills and financial pressure begin to dominate their conversations. Instead of talking about dreams or laughter, they talk about debt. Each purchase becomes a battle. Each paycheck becomes a weapon in their war of words. The love is still there, but buried under the heavy dust of money worries. Or imagine siblings who lose their bond over the division of their parents' estate. What once was a relationship of shared childhood memories becomes poisoned by greed and suspicion. Why does money have such power over relationships? Because it often carries hidden meanings. To one partner, spending money may mean freedom. To the other, it means recklessness. To one sibling, receiving less may mean being unloved. To the other, giving more may mean being taken advantage of. Money is not only about transactions. It is about identity, fairness, security, and love. Without wisdom, it easily becomes the battlefield where unspoken fears explode. Here again, Buddhist insight offers a path. The Buddha taught that clinging creates suffering, not only in solitude, but also in relationships. When we cling to my share, my right, my possession, we feed conflict. The practice of letting go, of generosity, of compassion, can heal these wounds. When we value peace more than possessions, relationships have space to breathe again. Consider a family that chooses to prioritize harmony over inheritance. Instead of arguing over who gets what, they remember the love their parents gave them and share the wealth in a spirit of generosity. Or think of a couple who, instead of fighting about spending, sit down together, breathe, and discuss openly, with compassion, what each truly fears. Suddenly, money becomes not a weapon, but a doorway to deeper understanding. But how can we apply these ideas in a practical, modern way? One practice is mindful spending. Before making a purchase, pause and ask, do I truly need this? Will it bring lasting happiness or only momentary pleasure? Is it worth the hours of life I exchange to earn this money? With such questions, spending becomes an act of awareness instead of impulse. Over time, This reduces waste, eases conflict, and brings clarity. Another practice is shared generosity. Couples and families can choose together to give a portion of their money to help others. Even if the amount is small, the act is powerful. It transforms money from a source of conflict into a tool for connection. Children raised in such families learn early that money is not only for taking, but for giving, not only for self, but for community. This plants seeds of peace for the next generation. Yet beyond family, money shapes entire societies. We live in a world where extreme wealth and extreme poverty exist side by side. Skyscrapers tower over homeless camps. Expensive banquets happen while children go hungry. This imbalance breeds anger, mistrust, and suffering on a massive scale. No single person can solve it, but each of us can choose how to live within it. We can choose to practice fairness, kindness, and simplicity in our own financial lives. And as these choices multiply, society shifts. The Buddhist teaching of right livelihood is deeply relevant here. Right livelihood means earning money in ways that do not harm others. It means choosing work that aligns with compassion and honesty, rather than greed and exploitation. Imagine a world where each job, each business, each transaction was rooted in this principle. The landscape of human suffering would change dramatically. While we cannot control the whole system, we can control our part in it. Each time we choose integrity over profit, kindness over exploitation, we plant seeds of healing. But perhaps the most radical truth is this: money can never buy what we most deeply long for. It can buy comfort, but not peace. It can buy entertainment, but not meaning. It can buy company, but not love. Time and again, history shows us wealthy people who are miserable and simple people who are joyful. The difference is not in the bank account, but in the heart. So ask yourself, what is the wealth I am truly seeking? Is it the wealth of possessions or the wealth of peace? Is it the wealth of control or the wealth of love? These questions cut to the root of money's power. They free us to use money wisely without being enslaved by a dot in daily life. This freedom can look very ordinary. Choosing a modest home instead of chasing endless upgrades. Taking joy in a simple meal instead of craving gourmet excess. Giving away clothes you no longer need instead of letting them gather dust. Working diligently but remembering to rest, because time with loved ones is worth more than extra overtime pay. Each of these choices breaks one link in the chain of money's control. Step by step, link by link, the chain falls away. And so, as we close this part of our journey, we see money not as the enemy, but as a mirror. It reflects our fears, our desires, our attachments. When we meet it with mindfulness, generosity, and contentment, money becomes a servant, not a master. It becomes a tool for peace instead of stress. But money is only one side of the coin. The other side is relationships, the very connections that give life meaning. If money often divides us, relationships are what we long for to bring us back together. Yet in the modern world, relationships too are full of pain. Misunderstandings, conflicts, heartbreaks, loneliness. In the next chapter, we will walk into this tender, fragile territory, exploring how Buddhist wisdom can heal the wounds of love, family, and friendship. Relationships are the heartbeat of our lives. From birth to death, every moment is shaped by the people around us. Family, friends, partners, co-workers, neighbors, no one lives in isolation. We long for connection as deeply as we long for food and shelter. And yet, the very source of joy often becomes the sharpest source of pain. Relationships, instead of bringing peace, often leave us wounded, confused, or lonely. Think of the countless stories around us. A marriage that once began with fire and passion slowly dissolves into silence, each partner living more like a stranger than a lover. A parent and child who should share unconditional love fall into years of bitterness over misunderstandings. Friendships end with betrayal. Siblings stop speaking. Coworkers poison each other with gossip. Behind closed doors, so many hearts ache not from lack of possessions, but from the breaking of trust, from words spoken in anger, from the absence of kindness where it was most needed. Why do relationships hurt so deeply? Because we expect them to complete us. We look to others to fill the gaps in our hearts. We hope a partner will erase our loneliness, that a friend will always understand, a family will never let us down. But reality is different. Every person carries their own wounds, their own blind spots, their own fears. When these collide, sparks fly. Instead of completion, we often find disappointment. Instead of eternal joy, we find cycles of conflict and reconciliation. In modern culture, the pressure is even greater. Movies and songs promise that true love will fix everything. Social media shows endless images of smiling couples, perfect families, unbreakable friendships. We compare our real, messy relationships to these illusions and feel like failures. The result is constant dissatisfaction, a quiet voice saying, "Why isn't my life like theirs?" This comparison becomes another layer of pain. Let us imagine a young woman who longs for love. She meets someone, and at first, everything feels magical. But soon, differences appear. Small arguments turn into larger ones. Promises are broken. She wonders if she chose the wrong person. She wonders if something is wrong with her. Or picture a father who works long hours to provide, yet his teenage son sees only absence, not sacrifice. The distance grows, and love is buried under resentment. Or think of a man who invests his heart in friendships, only to be abandoned when times grow difficult. The wound of betrayal cuts deep. These are not rare tragedies. They are everyday realities. The Buddha understood this human suffering well. He saw that relationships, like all things, are impermanent. People change. Circumstances shift. Expectations collide. To cling to the fantasy of permanent, flawless love is to invite pain. But he did not say that love is hopeless. Instead, he offered a new way to love, a way rooted not in clinging, but in compassion. Not in control, but in freedom. The first step is understanding that no one can complete us. When we expect others to fill our emptiness, we set them up for failure. A partner cannot erase all loneliness. A child cannot live only to fulfill a parent's dream. A friend cannot always agree with us. When we demand perfection, we turn love into a prison. The Buddha taught that true love begins with inner wholeness. When we cultivate peace within ourselves, we no longer cling desperately to others. We share love as a gift, not as a bargain. This is where the practice of compassion becomes vital. Compassion is not simply pity or sympathy. It is the ability to see another person's suffering and respond with care. In relationships, this means looking beyond the surface of someone's actions to the pain that drives them. When a partner speaks harshly, compassion asks, what wound are they carrying? When a friend disappoints us, compassion asks, what burden weighs on them? This shift does not excuse harmful behavior, but it transforms our reaction. Instead of instantly retaliating with anger, we pause, we breathe, we seek to understand. Consider the metaphor of two porcupines in winter. They need warmth, so they draw close, but their quills hurt each other. If they stay too far apart, they freeze. Too close, they bleed. The only solution is patience, awareness, and gentle adjustment. Human relationships are the same. We will hurt each other at times. The goal is not to avoid all pain, but to learn how to stay close without letting the quills of ego and fear destroy love. One powerful practice for healing relationships is mindful communication. Too often, we speak without awareness, throwing words like weapons. Once spoken, words cannot be taken back and they leave scars deeper than we realize. Mindful communication means pausing before speaking, asking, is it true? Is it kind? Is it necessary? If the answer is no, perhaps silence is wiser. When we practice this, arguments soften, respect grows, and trust begins to rebuild. Listening is equally important. Many conflicts endure not because of malice, but because no one truly listens. We hear words, but we prepare our defense while the other speaks. The Buddha taught the practice of deep listening with the intention to understand, not to respond. Imagine the healing that occurs when a child feels truly heard by a parent, or when a spouse feels their pain acknowledged without judgment. Deep listening is an act of love as powerful as any embrace. But what about betrayal, the deepest wound of all? When someone we love breaks our trust, the heart shatters. The natural response is anger, bitterness, revenge. Yet these responses keep the wound open. Forgiveness, though difficult, is the only path to peace. Forgiveness in Buddhism is not forgetting or excusing. It is releasing the poison so it no longer controls us. It is saying, I will not let your actions keep me chained to pain. Forgiveness frees the forgiver. As much as the forgiven dot in practical life, forgiveness can begin small. Writing a letter never sent, breathing while silently wishing peace even for the one who hurt us, reminding ourselves that their actions came from ignorance or suffering. Over time, the grip of resentment loosens, and the heart finds room to heal. All of this does not mean relationships will become perfect. Conflicts will arise. People will disappoint us. Love will sometimes fade. But with mindfulness, compassion, communication, and forgiveness, relationships can transform from prisons of expectation into gardens of growth. Even pain becomes a teacher, guiding us toward deeper wisdom and patience. Science confirms what ancient wisdom teaches. Studies show that couples who practice mindful listening report greater satisfaction. Families who share gratitude regularly experience less conflict. Communities built on compassion show resilience in crises. Love shaped by awareness is not a dream. It is a skill that can be learned, practiced, and strengthened. So as we pause at this point in our journey, reflect on your own relationships. Where is there clinging? Where is there misunderstanding? Where is there room for compassion, forgiveness, or deeper listening? These questions open the door to transformation. And yet, even when relationships are healed, another challenge often lingers in the shadows. The inner voice of anxiety, the restless fear that gnaws at us in solitude. Love may soothe it for a time, but when the night is quiet and we are alone with our thoughts, anxiety often returns. In the next chapter, we will enter this hidden battlefield, the anxious mind, and discover how Buddhist practice offers not only relief, but true liberation. Let us look deeper into the ways relationships shape our lives and test our hearts. For many, the search for a partner is one of the greatest pursuits of life. We are taught from an early age to look for the one, the person who will make us whole. Movies, novels, and songs sing of soulmates, of eternal passion, of a love that never falters. And so we enter relationships with this dream burning brightly. But reality rarely matches the dream. The partner is human, flawed, changing. We are human too, carrying our own fears, insecurities, and wounds. The collision of two imperfect beings creates not only joy, but also conflict. This is why so many relationships begin with passion and end in silence. The spark fades, and without deeper understanding, the bond unravels. Couples often say, we grew apart, but what they often mean is, we did not learn how to grow together. Growth requires awareness, patience, and compassion. Without these, love withers. Think of a couple arguing late at night. The words are sharp, but beneath them lies fear. Fear of not being loved, fear of not being respected, fear of being abandoned. If only they could see the fear behind the anger, their hearts would soften. But in the heat of conflict, we see only the surface, not the root. The Buddha taught that seeing deeply is the essence of wisdom. When we see the root of suffering, we can respond with compassion instead of retaliation. Parents and children face a different but equally deep challenge. Parents want to protect, to guide, to pass on wisdom. Children want independence, freedom, the chance to create their own lives. These two forces collide, and love becomes tangled with control. A mother insists on a path, believing it is best, but the child feels suffocated. A father demands respect, but the child craves understanding. Both love each other, but without mindful communication, love is expressed as pressure, and pressure is received as rejection. The Buddhist path invites both sides to practice awareness. For parents, it means listening deeply, letting go of control, and trusting the unfolding of the child's path. For children, it means recognizing the love beneath the rules, even if it feels heavy. When both practice compassion, the bond heals. Friendships, too, carry their share of suffering. A friend may betray us or simply drift away. We may feel abandoned, forgotten, or replaced. The pain of friendship loss can cut as deeply as romantic heartbreak, because friends are chosen family. Here again, the Buddha's wisdom shines. He taught that clinging causes suffering, and that impermanence is the nature of all things. Friendships may not last forever, but the love shared during their time is still real, still meaningful. To appreciate what was, without clinging to what must remain, is the path to peace. Now, let us turn to the quiet pain of loneliness. In a world more connected than ever through technology, many feel more isolated than ever. Social media offers the illusion of friendship, yet leaves people empty when the screen goes dark. A person may have hundreds of online friends, yet feel unseen in daily life. Loneliness is not simply the absence of people. It is the absence of true connection. The Buddhist solution to loneliness is surprising. It does not begin with seeking others. It begins with befriending ourselves. The Buddha taught the practice of loving kindness toward the self. To sit quietly, breathe, and say, "May I be peaceful. May I be healthy. May I be free from suffering." This practice plants the seed of self-acceptance. When we become our own friend, loneliness loses much of its sting. From this place of self-compassion, we connect more authentically with others. We are no longer desperate for approval, no longer clinging to others for validation. Instead, we share freely and genuine connections grow. Another key is community. In Buddhism, this is called Sangha, a community of people walking the path together. In modern life, Sangha may be found not only in temples, but in support groups, meditation circles, or even small gatherings of people committed to mindful living. Community reminds us that we are not alone in our struggles. It offers encouragement when we stumble, joy when we rise, and strength when we feel weak. In a world of isolation, community is medicine. One might ask, does Buddhist wisdom mean we should avoid relationships altogether to protect ourselves from pain? The answer is no. The Buddha himself had deep bonds with his disciples, friends, and family. Relationships are not obstacles to the path, they are the path. Every challenge in love, family, or friendship is an opportunity to practice compassion, patience, and forgiveness. Every moment of connection is a chance to cultivate joy and gratitude. Not to live this way, we must shift how we define success in relationships. Instead of asking, "Do they make me happy?" we ask, "Am I bringing compassion, understanding, and presence to this bond?" Instead of seeking perfect harmony, we accept imperfection as the soil in which love grows. With this shift, even conflicts become teachers, guiding us to deeper awareness. Let us return to our metaphors. Relationships are gardens. If we neglect them, weeds of resentment grow. If we overwater them with control, they drown. If we fertilize them with compassion, patience, and mindful care, they bloom. And like all gardens, they change with the seasons. Some flowers last a lifetime. Others bloom briefly, then fade. The wisdom is to appreciate each for what it is, without clinging to what it should be. As science has shown, healthy relationships lengthen life, reduce stress, and strengthen resilience. But these benefits do not come from relationships that are free of struggle. They come from relationships where struggle is met with awareness, where pain is met with compassion, where impermanence is embraced instead of feared. And so, as we conclude this part of our journey, let us hold this truth. Relationships are not meant to be perfect. They are meant to teach us how to love, how to listen, how to forgive. They are mirrors in which we see both our shadows and our light. Through them, we discover that the deepest love is not possession, but presence. Not demand, but understanding. Not clinging, but freedom. With this wisdom, we are prepared to face the next challenge, the restless anxiety that lives inside us, even when relationships are strong, even when money is stable, even when stress is managed. Anxiety is the whisper that says, "What if it all falls apart?" It is the storm that follows us into the night, into our solitude, into our very breath. In the next chapter, we will enter this storm and discover how Buddhist practice offers not just temporary calm, but lasting freedom from anxiety's grip. Anxiety is the invisible cage of our age. It is not as loud as anger, not as heavy as grief, not as obvious as stress, but it lingers quietly in the corners of the mind, whispering fears, tightening the chest, stealing the joy from even the calmest moments. It is the voice that says, "What if something goes wrong?" It is the shadow that follows you into meetings, conversations, even sleep. And unlike stress, which often has a clear cause, anxiety can feel like a fog with no exit, a restless unease that does not need a reason to exist. Look around, and you will see its presence everywhere. The teenager who cannot sleep before exams, replaying every possible failure in their mind. The mother who checks her child's breathing in the middle of the night, terrified of losing them. The worker who walks into the office with a smile, but hides the racing heart beneath their shirt. The retiree who should be at peace, but lies awake fearing illness or loss. Anxiety does not discriminate. It strikes rich and poor, young and old, successful and struggling. It has become the silent epidemic behind the polished images of modern life. Why is anxiety so common today? Partly because the world moves faster than ever. News of every disaster arrives instantly on our phones. Social media bombards us with comparisons. Economic uncertainty shakes our sense of safety. Even when nothing is immediately wrong, the mind expects that something might be. The nervous system, wired for survival, remains on constant alert, as if danger lurks behind every corner. Anxiety is the cost of living in a world that never lets us rest. But anxiety is not only caused by the outer world, it is also fueled by the inner one. The Buddha taught that suffering often comes from two arrows. The first arrow is the event itself: loss, failure, uncertainty. The second arrow is what our mind adds: the fear, the worry, the endless stories about what might happen. For example, you may feel a pain in your body. That is the first arrow. But then the mind says, what if this is something deadly? What if I cannot afford treatment? What if it ruins my life? These thoughts create far more suffering than the pain itself. Anxiety is the second arrow, piercing us again and again, even when the first arrow is small or non-existent. Consider a man who sits at his desk, about to give a presentation. His hands sweat, his heart races, his mind screams, "I will fail. They will laugh. I will lose everything." Yet when he finally speaks, the room listens, nods, even applauds. Nothing disastrous happened. The suffering was not in reality, but in the imagined future his mind created. This is the nature of anxiety. It is a prison built not of iron bars, but of thoughts. The good news is that if the prison is made of thoughts, the key is also within the mind. Buddhist wisdom teaches that anxiety can be transformed, not by fighting it, but by understanding it. The first step is awareness. Instead of drowning in anxious thoughts, we pause and notice them. Here is worry. Here is fear. Here is the racing heart. By naming the experience, we create distance. We are no longer the anxiety itself, we are the observer of it. Mindful breathing is one of the simplest, yet most powerful, tools for anxiety. When fear takes hold, the breath becomes shallow, fueling the panic. By consciously slowing the breath, inhaling deeply, exhaling fully, we send a signal of safety to the body. The nervous system begins to calm. The mind follows. Imagine standing in the middle of a storm, but finding a shelter. The storm still rages outside, but inside the shelter, you can rest. Mindful breathing is that shelter. Another practice is grounding in the present moment. Anxiety thrives on the future, on what might happen, what could go wrong. By bringing attention to the here and now, we starve anxiety of its fuel. This can be as simple as noticing your feet on the ground, the texture of an object in your hand, or the sounds around you. These anchors remind the mind, I am here. I am safe. This moment is enough. But anxiety also requires deeper healing. At its root, it is often a resistance to uncertainty. We want life to be predictable, secure, under control. But life is not built that way. Jobs end, health changes, relationships shift, accidents happen. The Buddha taught that clinging to certainty is one of the greatest causes of suffering. The path to peace is learning to live with uncertainty without fear. This does not mean we stop planning or preparing. It means we stop demanding that life obey our plans. Instead, we cultivate trust in our ability to meet whatever comes. Think of a sailor at sea. They cannot control the wind, but they can adjust the sails. They cannot stop the storm, but they can steer with skill and courage. Life is the same. Anxiety wants to control the wind. Wisdom learns to adjust the sails. Compassion also plays a crucial role. Anxiety often comes with self-judgment. Why am I like this? Why can't I be stronger? Why do I feel so weak? These thoughts only add more arrows. Instead, we can respond to anxiety with kindness. We can say to ourselves, this is hard. I am doing my best. May I be at peace? Such words soften the heart, reduce the inner battle, and create space for healing. In Buddhist tradition, meditation on loving kindness is a powerful antidote to fear. By silently repeating, may I be safe, may I be healthy, may I live with ease, we train the mind to replace anxious loops with soothing affirmations. Over time, this practice reshapes the brain, creating new patterns of calm. Modern neuroscience confirms this. Repeated compassionate thoughts build resilience and reduce anxiety. Yet, it is important to note that anxiety will not vanish overnight. The path is gradual. There will be days when fear rises strongly and the old patterns return. But each time we practice mindfulness, each time we breathe through fear, each time we offer compassion to ourselves, we weaken anxiety's grip. Step by step, the prison door begins to open. Let us pause here and reflect. Anxiety feels like an enemy, but in truth, it is a teacher. It reveals where we are clinging too tightly, where we fear too deeply, where we resist too strongly. If we listen carefully, anxiety points us back to the path of presence, compassion, and trust. In this way, even anxiety becomes part of our awakening. As we close this first half of our journey into anxiety, hold this truth. You are not your fear. You are the awareness that sees the fear. You are the calm that grows when you breathe, when you let go, when you trust the unfolding of life. This awareness is your refuge, unshaken by storms. And yet, there is more to explore. In the next half of this chapter, we will go deeper into the roots of anxiety, exploring attachment, identity, and the restless need for control. We will discover practical Buddhist practices to transform daily life, from sleepless nights to anxious mornings, from social fears to existential dread. Step by step, we will move closer to true freedom. To understand anxiety more deeply, we must look at the root causes hidden beneath the surface. On the surface, anxiety may appear as racing thoughts, sweaty palms, tight muscles, or restless nights. But underneath lies something more fundamental: attachment to identity and control. We want to be seen in a certain way. We want life to follow our script. When reality threatens those desires, fear rises and anxiety spreads like fire through dry grass. Imagine a college student standing before an exam. On one level, they fear failing a test. But beneath that fear lies something deeper: the belief that failing makes them unworthy, that success defines their value, that identity itself is tied to performance. Or think of a parent who worries constantly about their child's future. On the surface, it is love. But underneath is the desire to control outcomes, to guarantee safety in an uncertain world. This attachment to identity and control is the soil in which anxiety grows. The Buddha called this clinging to self and permanence. We cling to the idea that I must always succeed. My loved ones must always be safe. Life must always follow my plan. Yet reality does not obey. Life changes. People change. The body changes. The world changes. Anxiety is the mind's protest against impermanence. The more we resist, the more we suffer. So what is the solution? The solution is to loosen the grip, to see identity not as fixed, but as fluid, to see control not as absolute, but as limited, to accept impermanence not as an enemy, but as the very nature of existence. This acceptance does not erase anxiety instantly, but it removes the fuel that keeps the fire burning. Consider the metaphor of holding sand in your hand. If you squeeze tightly, the sand slips away. If you hold gently, the sand rests easily. Life is the same. Anxiety comes from squeezing too tightly. Peace comes from holding gently. One practical way to loosen the grip is meditation on impermanence. Sit quietly, breathe, and reflect. This breath arises and passes. This thought arises and passes. This feeling arises and passes. Nothing stays the same. By repeating this reflection, the mind begins to see impermanence not as a threat, but as a rhythm. Just as day follows night and seasons change, so too do fears, worries, and circumstances. With practice, anxiety loses its power because we no longer expect permanence where none exists. Another practice is the 3 breaths pause. Whenever anxiety rises, stop and take 3 conscious breaths. With the first, say silently, I am here. With the second, I let go. With the third, this moment is enough. Such small pauses break the cycle of anxious thought and return us to the present. Over time, they train the nervous system to find safety in awareness rather than in control. Let us also speak about social anxiety, which grips so many in modern life. Walking into a room, meeting new people, speaking in public, the heart races. The mind floods with self-criticism. They will judge me. I will fail. I do not belong. The Buddha's antidote is compassion, directed both outward and inward. Outwardly, we remember that everyone else is human too, carrying their own fears. Inwardly, we remind ourselves that we are enough as we are. We practice speaking and acting not to impress, but to connect, to serve, to share. Social fear fades when the focus shifts from, how am I being judged? 2. How can I bring kindness here? Then there is existential anxiety, the deepest fear of all. The fear of death, of non-existence, of losing everything we love. This anxiety haunts the background of human life, sometimes quietly, sometimes with overwhelming force. The Buddha faced this truth directly. He did not deny death. He taught that death is certain, but that fear of death is optional. By accepting mortality as part of life's natural cycle, we free ourselves to live fully now. Meditation on death may sound grim, but it is liberating. To sit and reflect, one day this body will die. One day all I cling to will pass. At first, it may stir fear, but with practice, it creates freedom. We stop postponing life. We stop clinging to illusions. We begin to appreciate each moment, each relationship, each breath as precious. Anxiety fades not because death is avoided, but because it is accepted. Let us return to everyday life. Anxiety often appears in the middle of the night, when silence magnifies the mind's whispers. In those moments, instead of fighting the thoughts, try lying still, placing a hand on the heart, and breathing slowly. Whisper gently to yourself, safe in this breath, safe in this moment. Do not demand sleep. Simply rest in awareness. Sleep may come, or it may not, but peace can be found even in wakefulness. During the day, create rituals that anchor you. Begin the morning with mindful breathing, instead of instantly checking the phone. Take breaks for short walks, noticing the sky, the trees, the air. End the day with gratitude, naming 3 simple blessings. These rituals train the mind to focus on presence and appreciation. Instead of fear and control, community also supports healing. Sharing anxiety with trusted friends, mentors, or groups reminds us we are not alone. In Buddhist practice, the Sangha community of practitioners provides a safe space where fears can be spoken without judgment. In modern life, support groups, therapy circles, or even honest conversations with loved ones can serve the same role. Anxiety grows in silence. It shrinks in shared compassion. And perhaps most importantly, patience is required. Anxiety is not a problem to be solved in one night. It is a pattern to be slowly reshaped, a habit of mind to be gently transformed. Each breath, each act of mindfulness, each moment of compassion is a step. Over time, the prison walls thin, the storm quiets, and freedom emerges. So let us close this part of our journey with a simple truth. Anxiety is not a life sentence. It is a teacher. It teaches us where we cling, where we fear, where we resist. And in showing us these places, it guides us to practice presence, compassion, and trust. By walking this path, we discover that beneath the waves of fear lies a deep ocean of peace. That ocean is already within us, waiting to be remembered. And now, we turn to the next great challenge, anger. If anxiety is the silent whisper that unsettles the heart, anger is the loud fire that burns it. Both cause suffering, but anger carries a heat that destroys relationships, communities, and even nations. In the next chapter, we will step into the fire of anger and discover how Buddhist wisdom teaches us not to suppress it, not to indulge it, but to transform it into clarity and strength. Anger is fire. It rises quickly, burns hot, and often leaves ashes behind. In a single moment, it can destroy years of love, trust, and peace. Words shouted in anger cannot be unsaid. Actions taken in anger cannot always be undone. We all know this truth, and yet anger still grips us, sometimes before we even realize it has arrived. Think of the times when anger has taken over your life. A careless word from a partner sparks a fight that lingers for days. A driver cuts you off in traffic, and rage boils up instantly. A friend betrays your trust, and bitterness consumes your thoughts. Or perhaps the anger is quieter, hidden beneath the surface, growing slowly from years of disappointment, resentment, or injustice. Whether loud or silent, anger eats away at peace like acid on metal. Why do we get angry? Often, it is because we feel hurt, disrespected, or powerless. Anger rises when we want reality to be different than it is. We believe, they should not treat me this way. This should not have happened. Life should not be unfair. Beneath the flame of anger lies the pain of unmet expectations, unhealed wounds, and a desperate desire for control. Modern society often fuels anger instead of calming it. News channels profit from outrage. Social media rewards conflict with likes and shares. Political leaders stir anger to gain power. We live in a culture where anger is seen as strength, as proof of passion, as the only way to be heard. Yet if anger is strength, why does it so often leave us weaker, emptier, and more alone? The Buddha saw anger for what it is, a fire that first burns the one who holds it. He compared anger to picking up a burning coal to throw at another. You may strike them, but you burn your own hand first. Science now agrees. Studies show that chronic anger increases the risk of heart disease, weakens the immune system, and shortens life. The cost of anger is high, and yet we pay it again and again. Let us consider a story. A father returns home after a long day at work. His child runs to him, excited, accidentally spilling juice on his shirt. Tired and frustrated, the father yells harshly. The child's face falls, and joy turns into fear. Later, the father feels guilty, realizing his anger was not truly about the juice, but about the stress he carried from work. This small moment shows how anger often misdirects itself, hurting the people we love most. Or picture a woman who carries resentment against her sister for years over an old argument. She replays the words again and again in her mind, feeling anger as fresh as the day it happened. Meanwhile, her sister has forgotten, moved on, or perhaps never understood the depth of the wound. The anger does not harm the sister, it only poisons the woman who holds it. This is the hidden tragedy of anger. It imprisons the one who clings to it. So what is the path out of this fire? Buddhism does not teach suppression, nor does it encourage indulgence. To suppress anger is to bury a live coal under the surface. It will smolder and erupt later. To indulge anger is to throw the coal wildly, burning yourself and others. The path is transformation, to see anger clearly, to understand its roots, and to turn its energy into wisdom and compassion. The first step is awareness. When anger rises, we usually react immediately, without pause. But if we can notice it in the body, the heat in the chest, the tightening jaw, the racing heart, we create a small space. In that space, we can breathe instead of explode. The Buddha compared this to a bell. When struck, the bell does not instantly fade. Its sound lingers. Anger, too, arises with echoes. If we can pause during those first echoes, we can choose a different response. Mindful breathing is a simple but powerful tool. When anger rises, focus only on your breath. Inhale, feeling the heat in your body. Exhale, imagining the fire cooling. Even 3 breaths can shift your state, turning reaction into awareness. Over time, this practice builds the habit of pausing, of cooling the flame before it burns. Another step is to look beneath the anger. Ask yourself, what pain is fueling this fire? Often, anger is a mask for sadness, fear, or hurt. By seeing the root, we can respond more wisely. If your partner's words hurt, perhaps the root is fear of being unloved. If a colleague's actions frustrate you, perhaps the root is feeling disrespected. By identifying the true wound, compassion can replace rage. The Buddha taught the practice of metta, loving kindness. When anger rises toward someone, silently repeat, "May they be safe. May they be healthy. May they be free from suffering." At first, this may feel impossible. The mind resists. But with practice, it softens the heart. You begin to see that those who hurt you are often themselves suffering. Their anger, their betrayal, their cruelty are born from their own pain. This understanding does not excuse harmful actions, but it frees you from the prison of hate. Another powerful practice is forgiveness. Forgiveness in Buddhism does not mean forgetting or excusing. It means choosing not to carry the fire any longer. It is placing down the burning coal. Forgiveness says, I will not let your actions destroy my peace. Sometimes forgiveness is for others. Often it is for ourselves. We carry anger toward our own mistakes, regrets, or failures. But just as we would forgive a friend, we must learn to forgive ourselves. To release the anger, we aim inward. Let us use a metaphor. Imagine carrying a jar of poison. Each day you sip from it, thinking it will hurt the one who wronged you. But it only harms your body, while the other remains untouched. Anger is this poison. Forgiveness is choosing to put down the jar and walk away free. In daily life, transforming anger requires practice. When conflict arises, pause before responding. Take a breath. Speak slowly, not to win, but to be understood. Practice deep listening, hearing the pain behind the words. Replace blame with curiosity. What are they truly feeling? What am I truly feeling? These small shifts turn anger from an enemy into a teacher. Science supports these practices. Mindfulness reduces aggressive reactions. Compassion training rewires the brain toward empathy. Forgiveness lowers blood pressure and improves mental health. The Buddha's teachings, tested for centuries, are now confirmed by modern research. Anger can be transformed, yet transformation does not mean elimination. We will still feel anger. It is part of being human. But when anger arises, we no longer drown in it. We ride the wave aware, compassionate, free. In this way, anger becomes not a fire that destroys, but a flame that illuminates the places within us that need healing. And as we leave this reflection, we prepare for the next part of our journey. If anger is the fire that burns outward, depression is the darkness that collapses inward. It is the weight that presses the heart, the silence that isolates the soul, the shadow that convinces us there is no light. In the next chapter, we will step into that shadow with courage and discover how Buddhist wisdom can guide us from despair into hope, from heaviness into renewal. To understand anger more fully, we must see how it takes root, not only in single moments, but in long patterns of life. Some people live with anger simmering beneath the surface every day. It may not always explode outward, but it is there, in sarcasm, in bitterness, in the quiet withdrawal that poisons relationships over time. This hidden anger is as destructive as open rage. It corrodes trust, blocks love, and keeps the heart locked in a prison of resentment. Think of the employee who feels unrecognized at work. Each day, small slights build up, being overlooked in meetings, being given more work without thanks. At home, they speak little, but inside, they are boiling. The family feels their distance, the workplace feels their tension, and slowly the anger shapes their entire life. Or consider the spouse who silently resents the other for old mistakes, never forgiving, never healing. Years pass, but the wound remains open, like a scar that never closes. This is the danger of unspoken anger. It becomes part of our identity. The Buddha taught that holding anger is like holding on to a burning lamp. Even if you mean to carry it as light, it still burns your hand. The solution is not to deny the anger, nor to let it consume you, but to transform it through wisdom. This begins with the practice of awareness. We must first admit, yes, anger is here. To deny it is to blind ourselves. To acknowledge it is to begin healing. Once anger is recognized, the next step is to give it space. Too often, we react instantly, adding fuel to the fire. But if we pause, even for a moment, the fire begins to cool. Breathing deeply, walking mindfully, or sitting quietly allows the storm to pass. Imagine a glass of muddy water. If you keep stirring it, the water stays cloudy. If you let it rest, the mud settles and the water clears. Anger works the same way. Stillness allows clarity. With clarity, we can look at the true roots of anger. Sometimes anger is about injustice. We feel the world is unfair, that harm is being done to us or others. In such cases, anger can be transformed into compassion in action. Instead of lashing out blindly, we channel the energy of anger into wise action speaking truth, creating change, standing for justice, but without hatred. Hatred blinds. Compassion empowers. The Buddha himself opposed injustice not with rage, but with calm courage. His strength came not from anger, but from compassion unshaken by hate. Other times, anger is about ego. We are offended because our pride is wounded, because someone challenged our image, because life did not follow our script. When we see this clearly, the anger loses its justification. We realize it is not the world harming us, but our own clinging to self-image. In that realization, humility grows and anger dissolves. A powerful practice here is compassion meditation toward the one who angered us most. At first, this feels impossible. The mind resists, saying, "They don't deserve it." But remember, compassion is not approval. It is understanding that their actions come from ignorance, fear, or suffering. By wishing them peace, we free ourselves. We stop drinking the poison of anger. Consider a story from the Buddhist tradition. A monk was insulted harshly by a villager. Instead of responding with anger, the monk said, "You have given me your anger, but I do not accept it. You may keep it for yourself." The villager was stunned. Without fuel, the fire of anger burned out. This story shows us that anger is not inevitable. We can choose not to accept the gift of hate in daily life. One practical method is writing. When anger rises, instead of shouting, write a letter. Do not send it immediately. Pour out every thought, every hurt, every flame onto the page. Then breathe, wait a day, and read it again. Often with time, the fire cools and clarity emerges. From there, you can communicate with calm instead of rage. Another method is mindful speech. When you must confront someone, speak slowly, using "I feel" instead of "you always." Say, "I feel hurt when this happens," instead of "you always hurt me." This shifts the tone from accusation to expression, opening the door to understanding instead of defense. Science supports these approaches. Studies show that mindfulness practices reduce aggression, that forgiveness lowers stress hormones, and that compassion meditation changes the brain's response to provocation. What ancient wisdom taught, modern research confirms. Anger can be transformed, not suppressed or indulged, but turned into strength. Still, transformation takes patience. We will fail at times. We will snap, we will lash out, we will regret. But each failure is a teacher. Each time we notice, breathe, and return to compassion, we grow stronger. Over months and years, anger loses its grip, and peace becomes the natural state of the heart. So let us close this chapter with a simple reflection. Anger is not the enemy. It is a signal pointing to pain, fear, or injustice. When we meet it with awareness, compassion, and patience, we can turn the fire into light. The flame that once destroyed can instead illuminate the path of understanding. And now, we step into another shadow, one quieter but often more suffocating: depression. If anger is a fire that bursts outward, depression is the heavy darkness that presses inward. It drains energy, steals joy, and convinces us that hope is gone. In the next chapter, we will walk into this darkness gently, with compassion, and explore how Buddhist wisdom can bring light back to the heart that feels lost in despair. Depression is a silence heavier than sound. It does not always roar like anger or race like anxiety. Often, it creeps in quietly, wrapping the heart in a fog that makes even simple tasks feel impossible. For those who live with it, depression is not simply sadness. Sadness has a cause, a beginning, and often an end. Depression is different. It is like a cloud that lingers, dimming every part of life. Imagine waking up and feeling no reason to rise. The bed feels like a cage, the day like a mountain too high to climb. Joyful things that once brought meaning, music, friendship, nature now feel distant, unreachable. Even love can feel far away, as if the heart is numb, unable to feel what it longs for. This is the quiet prison of depression, and millions live inside its walls. Modern culture often misunderstands depression. People say, just cheer up, or think positive, or other people have it worse. These words, though often well-meaning, wound more than they heal. Depression is not weakness, not laziness, not simply a lack of gratitude. It is suffering as real as physical pain, and it deserves the same compassion we would offer to any wounded person. The Buddha did not use the word depression as we do today, but he spoke deeply about despair, hopelessness, and the dark nights of the human spirit. He taught that suffering is part of life, but also that suffering can be transformed. He never denied the darkness, but he always pointed toward the light. To understand depression, we must look at its roots. Often, depression grows from a sense of loss of loved ones, loss of health, loss of purpose, loss of hope. Sometimes it grows from self-judgment, the belief that we are not enough, not worthy, not lovable. Sometimes it grows from exhaustion, when life's burdens become too heavy for too long. Whatever the cause, the experience is the same, a heaviness of spirit that makes life feel meaningless. Consider the story of a young man who once loved painting. He filled his days with colors, brushes, and imagination. But after losing his job, he fell into despair. Each day he told himself, I am worthless. I have failed. Slowly, he stopped painting, stopped seeing friends, stopped caring. The world lost its color for him, not because the world had changed, but because his mind was covered in clouds. Or think of a woman who loses her partner and feels as if half her soul has been torn away. No words of comfort reach her. The days stretch empty, the nights unbearable. Depression is not an abstract idea. It is real suffering, touching real lives. The Buddha's wisdom offers several doors of healing. The first is presence. Depression often pulls the mind into the past, replaying regrets, or into the future, imagining endless emptiness. Presence anchors us in the now, where life, however small, still exists. Even a single breath, noticed deeply, can be a thread of connection to life. Even the simple act of feeling the sun on your skin or hearing a bird outside can remind you. The world is still here, and so are you. Mindfulness practices, though challenging during depression, can gently reawaken the senses. Eating one bite with full awareness, walking one step with attention, listening to one sound with focus. These small acts create sparks of life in the fog. The fog may not lift immediately, but each spark is a reminder that light still exists. The second door is compassion. Depression often comes with self-criticism. The inner voice says, you should be stronger. You are broken. You are a burden. These thoughts deepen the wound. The antidote is self-compassion. To place a hand on your heart and say, this is hard. May I be gentle with myself. May I find peace. This may feel unnatural at first, but it plants seeds of healing. As we soften toward ourselves, the walls of despair begin to crack. Community is the third door. Depression isolates. It convinces us that no one understands, that we must hide, that we are alone. But connection is medicine. Speaking honestly to a friend, a counselor, or a spiritual community can break the isolation. In Buddhism, the Sangha, the community of practitioners, is a vital support. To sit with others in meditation, to share struggles without judgment, reminds us that suffering is human and healing is shared. The fourth door is purpose. Depression whispers, "Nothing matters." The Buddha taught that life has meaning not in grand achievements, but in small acts of compassion. Helping a neighbor, feeding a pet, smiling at a stranger. These small acts can rebuild purpose. Slowly, step by step, meaning returns, not as a sudden explosion, but as a quiet flame that grows with care. Meditation on impermanence also offers hope. Depression feels eternal, as if the darkness will never end. But nothing in life is permanent. Clouds cover the sky, but they always pass. Seasons change, nights turn to days, winters turn to springs. To reflect, this too will change, brings courage. The mind whispers, "It will always be like this." But the truth of impermanence says, "No, it will not." Of course, Buddhist practice does not deny the value of medicine or therapy. Depression may have physical causes, and professional help is often essential. The path of healing can and should include all forms of support, medical, psychological, and spiritual. To seek help is not weakness. It is wisdom. The Buddha taught that we should use every skillful means available to reduce suffering. In daily life, healing depression may begin with the smallest steps. Rising from bed to open the window, taking a short walk outside, drinking water mindfully, writing one sentence of gratitude, calling one trusted friend. Each act is like a candle in the dark. One candle may not banish the night, but many candles together can light the way. Let us close this first half of our reflection on depression with a simple truth. Depression is not the end of the story. It is a chapter. It is a season. It is a cloud, heavy but passing. And in the heart of the darkest night, the seeds of dawn are already present. The Buddha's path is not about denying darkness, but about discovering the light hidden within it. As we continue in the second half of this chapter, we will explore deeper practices, gratitude, loving kindness, and acceptance that help transform depression into growth. We will see how Buddhist wisdom offers not only relief from despair, but a new way of living with joy, meaning, and courage. To heal depression, we must look not only at the pain it brings, but also at the ways it can transform us. Though depression feels like pure darkness, within it lies the chance to awaken to truths we might otherwise ignore. Pain, when met with awareness, can become the soil where compassion and wisdom grow. One of the most powerful practices for lifting the heart from despair is gratitude. At first, this may sound impossible. When the mind is weighed down, gratitude feels like a foreign language. Yet gratitude does not ask us to deny pain. It asks us to notice even the smallest sparks of goodness that still exist. The warmth of sunlight on your skin, the sound of a bird singing, the kindness of someone holding open a door. These moments may seem small, but together they form a bridge out of despair. A practice of daily gratitude can begin simply. Each night, write down 3 things, however small, that brought even a moment of comfort. Some days, the list may feel forced, but over time, the mind begins to notice goodness more naturally. Science supports this. Studies show that gratitude rewires the brain, increasing resilience and easing depression. The Buddha's teaching of mindfulness aligns with this truth. When we notice what is present instead of drowning in what is absent, suffering lessens. Another practice is loving kindness meditation. Depression often whispers, "You are unworthy. You are unlovable. You are alone." Loving kindness counters this voice with gentleness. Sit quietly, breathe, and silently repeat, "May I be peaceful. May I be safe. May I be free from suffering." At first, the words may feel hollow, but repetition plants seeds. Over days and weeks, the heart begins to soften. Once self-compassion grows, extend it outward. May my loved ones be peaceful. May all beings be free. This practice shifts the focus from despair to connection, from numbness to love. Acceptance is another key. Depression thrives on the belief that things should be different. I should feel happy. I should be stronger. Life should be easier. These thoughts add layers of suffering. Acceptance says, this is how it is now. Not resignation, but recognition. When we stop fighting what is, we free energy for healing. Acceptance allows us to work with the present instead of against it. In Buddhism, this acceptance is called equanimity, a balanced mind that does not cling to joy or resist pain. Imagine standing in a river. If you fight the current, you exhaust yourself. If you flow with it, you can move forward gently. Depression is like this river. Acceptance teaches us to float, to trust that the current, however heavy, will eventually carry us forward. Stories illustrate this truth. A woman in deep grief after losing her child came to the Buddha, begging for medicine to bring her child back. The Buddha told her to bring a mustard seed from a house untouched by death. She searched every home, but in each, death had visited. Slowly, she realized she was not alone in her suffering. This realization did not erase her grief, but it transformed it into compassion for all who suffer. In the same way, depression can open our eyes to the shared human struggle. Softening isolation with empathy. Practical daily rituals also help. Begin each day with one small act of life, opening a window, lighting a candle, or drinking tea mindfully. These small actions break the paralysis of depression, reminding the mind and body that life continues. Build routines of gentle movement, walking, stretching, yoga that reconnect body and spirit. Seek community, even when every part of you wants to withdraw. Depression tells us to isolate, but connection heals. It is also important to remember that depression does not erase value. Even in the darkest days, you are not broken. You are a human being experiencing suffering, just as countless others have throughout time. The Buddha's teaching reminds us that suffering is not a personal failure. It is part of the human condition. Recognizing this truth softens the shame that often deepens depression, and let us not forget joy. Depression convinces us that joy is gone forever, but joy can be rediscovered in small doses. The Buddha often spoke of simple joys: the joy of breathing, the joy of silence, the joy of kindness. These are not the fleeting highs of distraction, but the steady joys of being present. Over time, these joys accumulate, building resilience against despair. In the end, depression is not only something to survive, it can also be something that teaches. Many who walk through depression emerge with deeper compassion, greater humility, and a clearer sense of what truly matters. They discover that life is not about constant happiness, but about the courage to keep walking, even when the path feels heavy. So let us close this chapter with hope. Depression is real, and its pain is deep, but it is not permanent. Clouds pass, seasons change. Even the darkest night gives way to dawn. The Buddha's path offers tools: mindfulness, compassion, gratitude, acceptance that can carry us through the night. With patience, with support, with practice, the fog can lift and light can return. And now, as we leave the heavy silence of depression, we turn toward another pain of modern life: loneliness. It is possible to be surrounded by people and still feel completely alone. It is possible to live in a crowded city and yet feel invisible. In the next chapter, we will explore the ache of loneliness and discover how Buddhist wisdom teaches us to find true connection with others, with ourselves, and with life itself. Loneliness is one of the quietest yet most painful struggles of modern life. It does not always show on the outside. Someone may appear busy, successful, even surrounded by people, and yet, inside, they feel profoundly alone. Loneliness is not simply the absence of company. It is the absence of connection, the deep sense that no one truly sees, hears, or understands us. In today's world, loneliness has become widespread. Studies show that millions report feeling isolated, even in crowded cities, even in digital networks of thousands of friends. Technology promised to connect us, but often it deepens the gap. A scroll through social media shows smiling faces, vacations, celebrations. Yet when we put the phone down, we are left with silence, comparing our reality to others' highlight reels. The result is a sense of emptiness, a feeling of being left out, forgotten, unseen. Consider the story of an elderly man whose children live far away. Each day, he eats meals alone, turns on the television for company, and waits for the phone to ring. The silence of his home weighs heavier than any physical burden. Or think of a teenager who posts pictures online, gathering likes but not real closeness. Surrounded by classmates, they still feel invisible. Or imagine a woman in a long marriage where communication has faded. She lives in the same house as her partner, but feels like a stranger in her own home. These examples reveal that loneliness is not about numbers of people around us, but about the depth of connection we share. The Buddha understood this human pain. Though he often spoke of solitude as a spiritual practice, he never confused solitude with loneliness. Solitude is chosen, empowering, filled with presence. Loneliness is unchosen, heavy, filled with emptiness. The difference lies not in being alone, but in whether we feel connected to ourselves, to others, to life. Why does loneliness hurt so much? Because human beings are wired for connection. From birth, we depend on others for survival. Our brains, our hearts, our bodies thrive in bonds of love and belonging. When those bonds are missing, we feel unsafe, incomplete. Loneliness is not just emotional pain, it affects physical health, increasing the risk of illness and shortening life. The ache of loneliness is the body's way of saying, I need connection, I need belonging. The Buddhist path offers a profound response. First, it teaches that connection begins within. Often, loneliness is intensified by self-judgment. We tell ourselves, I am unworthy of love. No one will ever understand me. Something is wrong with me. These thoughts create walls that block connection. The first step is to befriend ourselves. Through mindfulness and compassion, we can learn to sit with our own presence, to say, I am enough, even here, even now. When we become our own friend, we no longer cling desperately to others for validation. Instead, we connect from a place of wholeness. A simple practice is to sit quietly and place a hand over the heart. Breathe slowly and repeat, I am here for myself. I am worthy of love. I am not alone. At first, the words may feel strange, but with repetition, the heart begins to soften. This practice transforms the inner relationship, creating a foundation for outer connection. The next step is reaching out. Loneliness convinces us to withdraw, to hide, to wait for others to come to us. But healing begins when we take the first step. A phone call to a friend, a smile to a stranger, volunteering in the community, joining a group or class. These small actions break isolation and remind us that connection grows through effort. The Buddha emphasized the value of Sangha, a community, walking the path together. In modern life, Sangha may be found not only in temples, but also in support groups, spiritual circles, or any gathering of people committed to kindness and truth. Community as medicine for loneliness. Compassion also helps dissolve loneliness. When we focus only on our own pain, isolation deepens. But when we turn outward with compassion, we discover that everyone struggles with loneliness at times. The coworker who seems confident may cry at night. The neighbor who seems distant may ache for a kind word. By offering care to others, listening, helping, sharing, we create bridges. In giving connection, we also receive it. Consider the story of a woman who felt unbearably alone after moving to a new city. Instead of waiting for friends to appear, she began volunteering at a local shelter. There, she found others who shared her values. Over time, strangers became companions, and loneliness transformed into belonging. Her story shows that connection often grows when we shift focus from who will care for me to how can I care for others. Another practice is mindfulness of interbeing. The Buddha taught that we are never truly separate. Every breath we take connects us to trees that give oxygen. Every meal connects us to farmers, rain, soil, and sun. Every heartbeat connects us to ancestors who passed life down to us. When we reflect on these truths, we realize that loneliness, though felt deeply, is never the full reality. We are woven into life, always connected. Science echoes this wisdom. Studies show that acts of kindness increase feelings of connection, that meditation reduces feelings of isolation, and that gratitude strengthens bonds. Loneliness tells us, you are cut off. But both ancient wisdom and modern research show the opposite. Connection is always available. If we know where to look and how to practice dot as we pause here, let us reflect. Loneliness is real, but it is not destiny. It is a signal, calling us back to connection with ourselves, with others, with life. Through mindfulness, compassion, and community, we can answer that call. And yet, even when loneliness eases, another shadow often appears: emptiness. A sense not just of being alone, but of life itself lacking meaning. In the next chapter, we will explore this deeper hunger, the feeling of emptiness that haunts so many in modern life, and discover how Buddhist wisdom transforms it into fullness and peace. Loneliness has many faces. For some, it is the quiet ache of eating meals alone. For others, it is lying beside a partner yet feeling unseen, unheard, untouched. For others still, it is walking through a crowded street where everyone is rushing, no one making eye contact, the world moving fast while the heart stands still. In each case, the pain is the same, a longing to belong, to feel truly connected. Why does loneliness feel so heavy? Because it is not only about the absence of people, it is about the absence of being known. A person may have hundreds of contacts, dozens of coworkers, even a full household, yet still feel invisible. Loneliness whispers, no one really understands me. No one truly cares who I am. This is why it cuts so deeply. It strikes at the core of our humanity, the need to be seen and loved as we are. The Buddha's wisdom shines here. He taught that all beings share the same fundamental wish, to be free from suffering and to find happiness. When we understand this, loneliness softens. We realize we are not alone in our pain. The stranger on the bus, the neighbor across the street, the colleague in the office, they too long for connection, safety, love. Loneliness tells us we are isolated. Compassion reminds us we are united in our humanity. A practice that helps is deep listening. Too often, conversations are shallow, filled with distractions. But when we truly listen without judgment, without rushing, with full presence, connection blossoms. To sit with a friend, to hear their fears, to hold their words gently, is to dissolve loneliness for both listener and speaker. Deep listening is not about fixing. It is about being there fully. The Buddha called this compassionate listening, and it is one of the greatest gifts we can offer. Another practice is mindful presence in daily life. Loneliness often convinces us that connection must come from others. But connection also grows from being fully present with life itself. Sit under a tree, breathe, and notice the breeze. Feel the earth beneath your feet. Watch the play of sunlight on water. These moments remind us that we are not separate from the world. We are part of its living fabric. The tree, the air, the earth, they are companions too, silent but real. Volunteering is another doorway out of loneliness. When we give time and energy to others, we step out of isolation. Acts of service create bonds. Helping at a food pantry, joining a community garden, or simply checking on a neighbor opens doors to connection. Service transforms loneliness into belonging because it reminds us that we have value, that we are needed, that we can give love as much as we seek it. Let us consider a story. A man in deep loneliness began visiting a nursing home once a week. At first, it was difficult. He felt awkward, unsure. But over time, he built bonds with the residents. They shared stories, laughter, even tears. He discovered that in giving companionship, he received it back in abundance. What once was loneliness turned into purpose. This story shows that the cure for loneliness is not waiting for others to come, but stepping forward to connect. Yet loneliness is not always solved by action alone. Sometimes it lingers even when we are with people, even when we give and receive. This deeper loneliness comes from disconnection with ourselves. We may hide parts of who we are, fearing rejection. We may silence our own truth, chasing acceptance. In such cases, even surrounded by people, we feel unseen because we are not seeing ourselves. Here, the Buddhist practice of authenticity is vital. The Buddha encouraged honesty, not only with others, but with ourselves. To sit quietly and ask, who am I, truly? What do I feel, truly? What do I need, truly? Is the beginning of self-connection. When we live from this place of truth, loneliness lessens because we are no longer abandoning ourselves. The most painful loneliness is not being without others. It is being disconnected from our own heart. Over time, self-connection grows into inner peace. When we enjoy our own company, loneliness transforms into solitude. Solitude is rich, creative, freeing. In solitude, we can write, reflect, meditate, create. Solitude is not emptiness, it is fullness, because we are at home with ourselves. The Buddha himself often praised solitude, not as isolation, but as the ground where wisdom and compassion grow. Science confirms these truths. Studies show that people who practice mindfulness report lower loneliness, even when alone. Acts of kindness increase feelings of belonging. Communities built on shared values reduce isolation. What ancient wisdom taught, modern research now proves. Loneliness can be healed by connection with self, with others, with life. As we close this chapter, let us hold this truth. Loneliness is real, but it is not permanent. It is a signal, a calling back to connection. Through self-compassion, community, service, deep listening, and mindfulness, we can answer that call. Loneliness can become belonging. Isolation can become intimacy. Emptiness can become presence. And yet, beyond loneliness lies an even deeper hunger, the sense of emptiness, the question of meaning. Even surrounded by love, many still ask, what is the purpose of it all? Why am I here? What is the point of living? In the next chapter, we will enter this profound question of emptiness and discover how Buddhist wisdom transforms the void into fullness and the ache into peace. There is a pain even deeper than loneliness, and that is the feeling of emptiness. Loneliness says, I have no one beside me. Emptiness whispers, even with people beside me, life has no meaning. This is a pain of the soul, a quiet void that drains color from the world. Many who have families, jobs, and friendships still confess that something feels missing. They wake up, go through routines, smile at others, and yet inside there is a hollow echo. What is the point of it all? Modern life, for all its noise and busyness, often intensifies this feeling. We are told to chase success, to collect possessions, to stay entertained. But once success is reached, possessions gathered, entertainment consumed, a question often arises. Is this all there is? The emptiness behind the achievements reveals itself. What once seemed like the goal now feels like dust in the hand, momentary, insubstantial, unable to satisfy the heart's deepest hunger. Consider the story of a man who worked tirelessly to build a career. He gained wealth, respect, and recognition. Yet when he came home to his large house at night, he felt nothing but silence. The applause of others did not fill the emptiness within. Or imagine a young woman who pursues pleasure parties, shopping, travel, yet after each thrill, the void returns. She wonders if something is broken in her, not realizing that what she seeks cannot be bought or consumed. This sense of emptiness is not new. The Buddha himself faced it long before enlightenment. Born a prince, he had luxury, wealth, and every comfort. Yet he looked around and saw sickness, aging, and death. The pleasures of the palace could not hide the reality of impermanence. In that moment, he felt the deep emptiness of worldly life. This realization was not despair, it was the doorway to awakening. So what is the true cause of emptiness? It is the belief that lasting fulfillment can come from things that are temporary. When we cling to wealth, beauty, fame, or even relationships as the ultimate source of meaning, we are bound to be disappointed. These things change, fade, or end. The heart, longing for something permanent, feels betrayed. Emptiness arises when we seek permanence in what is impermanent. The Buddhist teaching of impermanence and interbeing offers a solution. He did not deny the reality of the void. Instead, he pointed to a different kind of fullness, one not built on possessions or status, but on awareness, compassion, and connection to the whole of life. He taught that the self is not a separate, solid entity, but a flow of conditions connected to everything else. When we see this truth, emptiness transforms into spaciousness. What once felt like a hollow absence becomes an open field, vast and alive. One practice to work with feelings of emptiness is mindful awareness of the present moment. Depression and anxiety often dwell in the past or future, but emptiness feeds on distraction, on endlessly chasing the next thing without ever stopping to taste life as it is. Mindfulness breaks this cycle. Eating a meal with full awareness of its flavors, textures, and origins fills the moment with meaning. Walking and noticing the sky, the air, the sounds reveals the richness already present. Emptiness thrives on absence. Presence dissolves it. Another practice is gratitude. Gratitude does not deny the void, but it illuminates the hidden fullness already around us. The simple gift of breath, the beating of the heart, the warmth of a smile, each moment of gratitude reminds us that life itself is precious, even when not perfect. Over time, gratitude rewires the mind to see fullness where it once saw lack. But perhaps the deepest solution to emptiness is service. When life feels meaningless, turning inward often deepens the void. Turning outward opens the heart. Helping another person, caring for the earth, sharing compassion, these acts create purpose. The Buddha taught that compassion is the highest expression of wisdom. In serving others, we find ourselves. In giving meaning, we receive it. Consider a man who, after years of feeling empty, began volunteering at a hospital. At first, he thought he had nothing to offer. But as he held the hands of patients, listened to their stories, and offered kindness, something shifted. The emptiness that haunted him began to fade. He discovered that life's meaning is not in what we take, but in what we give. Emptiness also arises when we believe the self is a fixed, separate thing. We ask, who am I? What is my purpose? Why am I here? These questions, though natural, can spiral into despair when we assume there must be a single answer. The Buddha taught that the self is not a solid object, but a process, a dance of body, mind, and conditions. Like a river, we are always flowing, changing, interconnected. To demand a fixed meaning from life is to misunderstand its nature. Life is not a riddle to be solved, but a song to be sung, a path to be walked, a gift to be shared. In this light, emptiness becomes freedom. If there is no fixed self, no fixed purpose, then we are free to create meaning moment by moment. One day, meaning may be in caring for family. Another day, in creating art. Another, in practicing compassion. There is no single answer, only the living of life itself. Science again echoes this. Studies show that people who focus on service, gratitude, and mindfulness report greater meaning and less emptiness. Those who chase only wealth or status often feel hollow. The Buddha's ancient path aligns with modern psychology. True fulfillment is found not in clinging, but in connection and compassion. So as we pause here, let us reflect. Emptiness is not the end of meaning. It is the doorway to a deeper kind of meaning, one not based on possessions or fleeting pleasures, but on awareness, compassion, and interconnection. When we stop demanding that life give us purpose, and instead bring purpose to life, the void becomes fullness. And yet, even with meaning, another challenge awaits us: the constant change of life. Impermanence is everywhere. Youth turns to age, health turns to sickness, gain turns to loss. In the next chapter, we will face the reality of change and see how Buddhist wisdom transforms impermanence from a source of fear into a source of freedom. The feeling of emptiness can take many forms. For some, it is a quiet numbness, the sense that life has lost its color. For others, it is restlessness, the need to constantly stay busy because silence feels unbearable. And for many, it is the haunting question that returns again and again. What is the point? These forms may look different, but their root is the same: the human longing for meaning in a world where everything changes. The danger of emptiness is that it often drives people into extremes. Some try to fill the void with consumption, more possessions, more food, more entertainment. Others try to fill it with achievement, climbing higher, earning more, proving themselves again and again. Still others numb it with substances or distractions, anything to avoid the silence of the void. Yet no matter how much is added, the emptiness remains. The bucket has a hole, and nothing poured into it can stay. The Buddhist teaching invites us to stop filling the bucket and instead mend it. The problem is not that life has no meaning. The problem is that we are looking for meaning in places that cannot provide it. Meaning is not found in accumulation. It is found in presence, compassion, and awakening. One practice to mend the bucket is mindful inquiry. Sit quietly and ask yourself, what is it I am truly seeking? Beneath the craving for success or pleasure, there is often a deeper longing for peace, for love, for belonging. When we recognize this, we can stop chasing substitutes and turn directly to the source. Another practice is embracing creativity. When emptiness feels heavy, creating something, painting, writing, gardening, cooking, can bring light. The act of creation connects us to the flow of life, reminding us that we are not passive observers, but participants in existence. The Buddha often encouraged skillful effort, the use of energy in ways that bring growth and joy. Creativity is one such effort, turning void into expression. Service, too, transforms emptiness. When we ask only, what can I get? The void grows. When we ask, what can I give? The void fills. Even small acts, comforting a friend, caring for an animal, tending a plant, create ripples of meaning. The Buddha taught that compassion is not a luxury, but the heart of life. In giving, we receive not only connection, but purpose. Let us use a metaphor. Emptiness is like a barren field. Left alone, it looks desolate. But if we plant seeds of gratitude, compassion, creativity, service, the field becomes a garden. the barrenness was never permanent. It was waiting to be cultivated. In the same way, the void in the heart is not a curse. It is an invitation to plant, meaning that, yet emptiness can also be a teacher. It strips away illusions and forces us to ask real questions. What truly matters? What endures when everything else fades? These questions, though painful, guide us toward deeper truths. The Buddha himself faced them under the Bodhi tree. He sat not to escape emptiness, but to look directly into it until awakening arose. In this sense, emptiness is not an enemy but a doorway. The Buddhist concept of sunyata, often translated as emptiness, is not the same as despair. It means that all things are empty of fixed self, independent existence, or permanence. At first, this may sound frightening, but in truth, it is liberating. Because everything is empty of fixed essence, everything is connected, changing, possible. Emptiness is not a void, but a space spacious, alive, open. When we see this, what once felt meaningless becomes limitless. Consider the sky. On a cloudy day, it looks gray, heavy, empty of light. But behind the clouds, the sky is vast and open. The clouds pass, but the space remains. The heart is the same. Emptiness may feel like gray clouds, but beneath it lies a vast openness, ready for light. Science supports this wisdom. Studies on purpose show that people who connect to values beyond themselves, love, service, creativity, spirituality, report greater fulfillment. Those who chase only external success often report emptiness, even at the height of achievement. Modern psychology echoes the Buddha's truth. Lasting meaning arises not from clinging, but from connection and compassion. So how can we live this truth daily? Begin with presence. Practice noticing small moments, breathing, walking, listening. Let them remind you that life itself is rich, even without grand purpose. Add gratitude. Write down simple blessings, however small. Add compassion. Do one act of kindness each day, even a smile. Add creativity. Express yourself in some way, however humble. Add reflection. Sit quietly and remember, everything changes, but awareness remains. Together, these practices turn emptiness into fullness, not a fullness of things, but a fullness of being. Life may still have challenges, losses, and struggles, but beneath it all, there is a steady sense of meaning. To live awake, to live connected, to live with love. As we close this chapter, let us hold the truth that emptiness is not the end. It is the beginning. It is the invitation to look beyond illusions and discover the real source of meaning, not in possessions, not in status, but in awareness and compassion. When we embrace emptiness, it transforms into spaciousness, and the hollow ache becomes a deep peace. And now, we turn to the next reality of life, impermanence. Everything changes: youth to age, health to sickness, gain to loss. At first, this truth feels frightening. But through Buddhist wisdom, impermanence becomes not a cause of despair, but a key to freedom. In the next chapter, we will walk into the truth of change and discover how to live not in fear of it, but in harmony with it. Everything changes. This truth is so simple that we often overlook it, and yet it shapes every part of our lives. Childhood turns into adulthood. Spring turns into summer, then autumn, then winter. Friendships blossom, grow, and sometimes fade. Health shifts, fortunes rise and fall. Even the body we call our own transforms with every passing year. Impermanence is not an exception to life. It is the nature of life itself. And yet, though we know this truth, we resist it. We want the good moments to last forever, and the bad ones to vanish instantly. When joy comes, we cling. When loss comes, we fight. This resistance is the root of much of our suffering. We cannot stop time, but we keep trying. Like standing on the shore, shouting at the waves to stop. We exhaust ourselves fighting what will never obey. Consider a couple in love at the height of passion. They say, "May it always be like this." But slowly, the glow changes. Routine enters, responsibilities grow, new challenges appear. Love may deepen in a quieter way, or it may fade. If the couple clings only to the first fire, they suffer when it changes. Or think of a parent watching their child grow. The toddler who once clung to their leg now seeks independence. The parent feels loss, forgetting that growth is part of love. Impermanence is also seen in the body. We all age, whether we admit it or not. Hair grays, skin wrinkles, energy shifts. Some resist fiercely, chasing youth with products, surgeries, or denial. Others despair, feeling worthless as years advance. Yet aging is not a failure. It is the natural rhythm of existence. The Buddha reminded his followers often of aging, sickness, and death, not to depress them, but to free them. To see impermanence clearly is to stop clinging to illusions. Why do we fear change so much? Because we tie our identity to what changes. We believe, I am my youth. I am my wealth. I am my relationships. When these things shift, we feel as if we are losing ourselves. But the Buddha taught that the self is not fixed. It is a flow of conditions, always moving. To cling to a fixed idea of self is to fight against reality. To embrace impermanence is to discover freedom. One story tells of a monk who cherished a beautiful porcelain cup. He admired its shape, its shine, its delicacy. One day he reflected, this cup is already broken. One day it will fall, or chip, or fade. From that day forward, he enjoyed the cup more deeply, not with fear, but with gratitude. Each time he drank, he appreciated it fully, knowing it was not permanent. And when the day came that the cup broke, he did not despair. He had already made peace with its impermanence. This story teaches us that impermanence, when embraced, increases joy. When we know something will not last, we cherish it more. The laughter of a child, the beauty of a sunset, the company of a friend, all are more precious when we remember they are fleeting. Impermanence is not only loss, it is also what makes life precious. Mindfulness is a practice that helps us live with impermanence. When eating, notice each bite fully, instead of rushing. When speaking to a loved one, listen deeply, knowing this moment will not return. When walking outside, breathe in the changing air, noticing the seasons shift. These small practices remind us to stop clinging to what was or worrying about what will be, and instead inhabit what is. Another practice is reflection on death. In many cultures, death is avoided, hidden, feared. But the Buddha taught that meditating on death brings freedom. To reflect, this body will one day die, may sound frightening, but it awakens us to life. When we remember death, we stop postponing living. We say what needs to be said. We love more openly. We release grudges more quickly. We live more fully because we know life is fragile. Impermanence also teaches resilience. When hardship comes, it feels eternal. Heartbreak, sickness, loss, they seem as if they will last forever. But nothing does. Just as joy passes, so does sorrow. To reflect, this too will change, is to find strength in the middle of pain. Many who endure loss later discover new love, new growth, new beginnings. Impermanence makes this possible. Let us use a metaphor. Life is like a river. The water never stands still. If we try to cling to one drop, it slips away. If we try to stop the flow, we suffer. But if we learn to float, to move with the current, we find peace. Impermanence is the river, always flowing. Peace comes not from stopping it, but from moving with it. Science echoes this wisdom. Studies on resilience show that those who accept change recover more quickly from trauma. Those who cling to things must always be this way suffer more. Flexibility of mind and spirit creates strength. What Buddhism taught thousands of years ago, psychology now confirms. Acceptance of impermanence is key to well-being. So let us pause and reflect. Impermanence is not our enemy. It is our teacher. It reminds us that nothing is fixed, that everything is alive, moving, precious. When we cling, we suffer. When we accept, we are free. And yet, impermanence also brings one more challenge: the attachments we carry to things, people, and identities. If everything changes, how do we love without clinging? How do we hold without grasping? In the next chapter, we will explore the Buddhist path of letting go, not as cold detachment, but as the warm freedom of love without fear. To live with impermanence is not to deny the pain of change. It is to meet that pain with understanding. Loss still hurts. Goodbyes still bring tears. The shifting of life still stirs fear. But when we see that change is the nature of all things, we no longer treat it as a cruel mistake. We accept it as the rhythm of existence. Think of the changing seasons. No one curses the falling leaves in autumn, because we know spring will come again. We may feel nostalgia for summer's warmth, but we accept the cycle. What if we could see our own lives with the same wisdom? Each phase, each age, each chapter is part of a greater rhythm. Childhood gives way to adulthood. Beginnings give way to endings. And endings give way to new beginnings. Yet in daily life, impermanence can feel harsh. A loved one dies, and the loss feels unbearable. A relationship ends, and the heart feels torn apart. A career shifts, and identity crumbles. In such times, the teaching of impermanence is not meant to erase grief, but to guide it. Grief is love with nowhere to go. To grieve is to honor impermanence, to acknowledge the depth of our love and the truth of change. The Buddha himself wept at the death of loved ones. His teaching was not to suppress sorrow, but to walk through it with awareness. He reminded us that sorrow, too, will change. The river of grief eventually carries us to a new shore, where memories soften into gratitude and pain opens into compassion. One practice to work with. Impermanence is conscious reflection. Each day, pause and reflect. All that I love will change. All that I am will change. All that I see will change. At first, this may feel heavy, but over time, it brings freedom. We stop taking moments for granted. We cherish them more deeply because we know they will not last. Another practice is loving fully without clinging. Often we try to hold on to people or things as if they could stay forever. But true love is not possession. True love is freedom. To say, I love you, knowing you will change. I love you, knowing you will one day leave or I will leave. This kind of love does not fear impermanence. It embraces it, and because of that, it is deeper, more tender, more real. Consider the image of a butterfly landing on your hand. If you try to grasp it, you crush it. If you hold your hand open, it may stay for a while, then fly away. Love, too, is like this. Impermanence teaches us to open our hands, to hold gently, to release with grace. Impermanence also reminds us of urgency. If nothing lasts, then each moment is precious. We do not know how many days we have with our loved ones. We do not know how many breaths remain. Impermanence whispers, do not wait to love. Do not wait to forgive. Do not wait to live. This urgency is not panic. It is clarity. It awakens us to the truth that life is happening now, and now is all we truly have. Let us return to the metaphor of the river. If we sit clinging to one rock, the current will pull us under. But if we learn to flow with the river, we discover its beauty. The changing scenery, the shifting waters, the unexpected bends all become part of the journey. Impermanence is the current. Acceptance is learning to swim. Science affirms this wisdom. Studies on aging show that those who embrace change with acceptance live with more peace. Those who cling to youth suffer more. Those who adapt to life's losses with flexibility recover faster. What Buddhism taught that impermanence is not to be feared, but to be understood, modern psychology echoes. Still, impermanence is not always easy. It asks courage. It asks humility. It asks trust. Courage to face loss, humility to release control, trust that life continues even as forms change. Yet those who practice this find a freedom beyond measure. They live not as prisoners of clinging, but as travelers at peace with the journey. As we close this chapter, let us hold this truth. Impermanence is not our enemy. It is the very thing that makes love possible, joy precious, and growth real. Without change, there would be no flowers blooming, no children growing, no seasons turning. Impermanence gives life its beauty. To embrace it is to embrace life itself. And now, we move to the final theme of our journey, letting go. If impermanence teaches us that everything changes, then letting go teaches us how to live with that truth. Letting go is not cold detachment. It is warm freedom. It is the art of holding with love and releasing with peace. In the next chapter, we will discover how to open our hands and our hearts and find liberation in the gentle practice of release. Letting go is one of the hardest lessons of life. The mind wants to hold on to people, to possessions, to memories, to identities. We cling because we fear loss. We cling because we think holding on will give us control. Yet the more tightly we grasp, the more we suffer. Letting go does not come naturally. It feels like surrender, like giving up. But in truth, letting go is not losing. It is gaining freedom. Consider the times in your life when holding on caused pain. A relationship ended, but you could not stop replaying the past, holding on to what was gone. A loved one passed away, and instead of honoring their memory, you clung to the wound, unable to heal. Or perhaps you held on to an old identity. I am successful. I am strong. I am needed. And when life changed, you felt broken because you could not release who you once were. Each of these moments shows how clinging deepens suffering. The Buddha compared clinging to grasping a rope covered in thorns. The tighter we hold, the more we bleed. We think the rope will save us, but it only hurts us. Letting go is the courage to release the rope, to open the hand, to trust that freedom is safer than grasping. Why do we cling so fiercely? Because we confuse impermanence with injustice. When something changes, we feel cheated. We say, this should not have happened. We treat life as if it owes us permanence. But life never promised that. Everything we love, everything we know, everything we are, will one day change. To cling is to fight reality. To let go is to live in harmony with it. Let us use a story. A man carried a heavy bag of rocks wherever he went. When asked why, he said, "These rocks are mine. I cannot leave them behind." His back ached, his steps slowed, yet he refused to let go. One day, he finally dropped the bag. Instantly, his body felt light, his path easier, his joy restored. The burden had always been self-imposed. We, too, carry bags of rocks-old grudges, regrets, fears. Letting go is setting them down. One of the greatest burdens we carry is resentment. Someone hurt us, and we replay the wound again and again. We believe that holding on to anger protects us, but it only imprisons us. Forgiveness is the act of letting go not for the other person's sake, but for our own. It does not excuse harm, but it frees us from the chains of the past. The Buddha taught that hatred is never ended by hatred, only by love. To forgive is to let go of hatred and reclaim peace. Another burden is regret. We replay mistakes, wishing we could change the past. But the past cannot be changed. It can only be learned from. To let go of regret is to accept, I did what I could with who I was then. Now I choose differently. Self-forgiveness is an act of release. Without it, we remain trapped in yesterday. With it, we walk into today with open hands. Letting go also applies to fear of the future. We grasp at control, planning every detail, demanding certainty. But the future is as fluid as water. To cling to it is to live in anxiety. To let go is not to stop planning, but to release the demand that life obey our plans. It is to trust that whatever comes, we will meet it with courage and compassion. Mindfulness is the practice that makes letting go possible. When we notice clinging, when we catch ourselves replaying, regretting, grasping, we can pause, breathe, and release. Even saying silently, let go, while exhaling helps. With each breath, we practice opening the hand of the heart. Another practice is generosity. When we give a smile, time, kindness, possessions, we loosen the grip of clinging. Generosity trains the mind to release and trust that giving does not diminish us. It expands us. The Buddha often said that generosity is the foundation of freedom. Let us reflect on love. Many fear that letting go in love means not caring. But true love is not possession. True love says, I want your happiness, even if it changes, even if it is not with me. Parents learn this when children grow. Lovers learn this when paths diverge. Friends learn this when distance arises. To love without clinging is to love freely, deeply, without fear. Science supports this. Studies show that people who practice forgiveness and acceptance experience lower stress, better health, and greater happiness. Clinging increases anxiety and depression. Letting go brings resilience and peace. What the Buddha taught long ago, modern research now confirms. So let us pause here. Letting go is not abandonment. It is not apathy. It is not cold detachment. It is warm freedom, tender release, gentle trust. It is holding life like a butterfly, open hands, open heart, knowing it may fly away, and cherishing it while it stays. And as we prepare for the final half of this journey, we will go deeper. We will see how letting go does not mean losing everything, but gaining a greater freedom than we ever imagined. We will explore how letting go brings not emptiness but fullness, not weakness but strength. And we will prepare to close this long journey with hope, gratitude, and peace. Letting go does not mean pushing away what we love. It means learning to hold it gently, without fear. When we cling tightly, we strangle joy. When we open our hands, love breathes freely. This truth can be seen in every part of life. Parents who cling to their children's childhoods suffer as they grow. But parents who let go celebrate each stage, finding beauty in every transformation. Lovers who cling to each other out of fear create cages. Lovers who let go of control create freedom, trust, and deeper intimacy. Letting go makes love possible because it removes fear. We often confuse letting go with losing, but in reality, it is the opposite. When we let go, we do not lose life, we gain life. When we release the past, we free ourselves to live in the present. When we release fear, we free ourselves to act with courage. When we release control, we free ourselves to trust. Letting go is not the end of living, it is the beginning of living fully. One of the most powerful examples is grief. When someone we love dies, the pain can feel unbearable. We want to hold them, to hear them, to keep them here. But clinging to the impossible only deepens suffering. Letting go does not mean forgetting. It means remembering with peace instead of chains. It means saying, I release you with love. You will always live in my heart. This kind of letting go honors love without being trapped by loss. Another example is failure. Many of us cling to old mistakes, defining ourselves by them. We think, I cannot move on because I failed once. But failure is not who we are. It is an event that has already passed. Letting go of failure is seeing it as a teacher, not a prison. Every failure holds wisdom, but only if we release the shame that keeps us bound. The Buddha used the image of a raft. Imagine crossing a river on a raft. Once you reach the other shore, do you carry the raft on your back? No. You leave it behind, grateful but free. In the same way, teachings, relationships, experiences, these are rafts. They help us cross certain rivers. But once their purpose is fulfilled, we must let them go. Otherwise, we burden ourselves unnecessarily. A practice for letting go is forgiveness meditation. Sit quietly, breathe, and bring to mind someone who hurt you. Silently repeat, I forgive you, not because what you did was right, but because I will not carry this pain any longer. I forgive you to free myself. Then turn inward. I forgive myself for my mistakes. I choose to grow, not to stay trapped in regret. With each repetition, the chains loosen. Forgiveness is the deepest form of letting go. Another practice is breath meditation. Each breath is a lesson in letting go. We inhale and we must exhale. If we cling to the breath, refusing to release it, we suffocate. Life itself is sustained by letting go. To meditate on the breath is to learn this truth in the body. Inhale presence, exhale release. In this rhythm, peace arises. Generosity is also a daily form of letting go. Every time we give our time, our attention, our kindness, we practice release. The act of giving tells the heart, I am not diminished by letting go. I am expanded by it. Over time, generosity dissolves greed, softens fear, and strengthens love. Science supports this wisdom. People who practice forgiveness report lower stress, better health, and greater happiness. Those who cling to resentment or regret suffer higher anxiety and depression. Studies on generosity show that giving activates areas of the brain linked to joy. Letting go is not only spiritual truth. It is practical medicine. Let us imagine a simple metaphor, holding a bird. If you grip too tightly, you harm it. If you open your hands completely, it flies away. Letting go is not about throwing life away. It is about holding gently, with love, with trust, with freedom. As we come to the close of this chapter, let us reflect on the journey. We began with pain, stress, money struggles, relationship conflicts, anxiety, anger, depression, loneliness, emptiness, impermanence. Each chapter revealed suffering, but also the way of freedom. And now, with letting go, we see the thread that runs through them all. Freedom arises when we release clinging. Letting go is the final door. It is the gentle art of opening the hand, the heart, and the mind. It is the courage to say, I do not need to control everything. I do not need to hold forever. I choose to live with love, with presence, with trust. In this letting go, we do not lose. We find peace. And now, as our long journey nears its end, we will bring all these lessons together. In the conclusion, we will reflect on what we have learned, plant seeds of hope, and invite the listener to carry these truths into their own lives. It will be a closing not of finality, but of beginning, a call to live with awareness, compassion, and freedom. We have walked a long journey together. From the first step, we faced the heavy weight of stress, the endless chase of money, the fragile bonds of relationships, the storm of anxiety, the fire of anger, the shadow of depression, the ache of loneliness, the void of emptiness, the truth of impermanence, and finally, the path of letting go. Each chapter has revealed pain familiar to every human heart. Each chapter has also opened a door to freedom through the timeless wisdom of mindfulness, compassion, and release. Now, as we close, let us pause and breathe. Take one deep breath in, feeling the air enter, and one slow breath out, feeling the body soften. In this simple act, the whole teaching is present. Stress softens in presence. Money loses its grip in gratitude. Relationships heal in compassion. Anxiety calms in mindfulness. Anger cools in forgiveness. Depression lightens in kindness. Loneliness dissolves in connection. Emptiness transforms in awareness. Impermanence awakens appreciation. And letting go brings peace. The Buddha never promised a life without suffering. He promised a path through it. This path is not distant. It is here in every breath, in every moment, in every choice. The pain of modern life is real, but so is the possibility of freedom. The same heart that suffers is the heart that can awaken. Let us remember the lessons. Stress showed us that chasing endlessly only deepens exhaustion, but mindfulness brings rest in the middle of the storm. Money showed us that wealth without wisdom is empty, but generosity turns even little into abundance. Relationships showed us that clinging to control creates conflict, but listening and compassion create love. Anxiety showed us that fear of the future steals the present, but presence restores peace. Anger showed us that fire burns the one who holds it, but compassion transforms it into light. Depression showed us that darkness feels endless, but even in silence, seeds of hope wait to grow. Loneliness showed us that we may feel invisible, but connection is always possible, within, with others, with life. Emptiness showed us that meaning is not in possessions, but in presence and compassion. Impermanence showed us that everything changes, but change makes life precious. Letting go showed us that clinging is the source of suffering, and release is the doorway to freedom. All these lessons lead to one truth: freedom is possible. Not freedom from the reality of life, but freedom in the midst of it. We do not need to escape the world. We need to wake up within it. How do we live this in daily life? We begin small. One mindful breath in the morning. One act of kindness during the day. One moment of gratitude before sleep. Small steps create great change. Over time, the mind becomes calmer, the heart softer, the spirit freer. The call is not to believe blindly, but to practice. The Buddha always said, "Come and see for yourself. Test these teachings in your own life." When stress rises, pause and breathe. When money worries come, practice generosity. When conflict stirs, practice listening. When fear grows, return to presence. When anger burns, practice forgiveness. When sadness weighs heavy, practice kindness to yourself. When loneliness whispers, reach out. When emptiness echoes, create and serve. When change hurts, reflect on impermanence. When clinging traps you, open your hand. This is the path, not a distant dream, but a living practice. Step by step, day by day, the heart learns a new way of being. Not chained by fear, not trapped by desire, not consumed by anger, not lost in despair, but steady, open, free. Let us also remember, we are not alone. The Buddha spoke of the Sangha, the community. In modern times, this community can be family, friends, teachers, groups, or even a single person who walks beside us. Healing is not only personal, it is shared. When we practice, we inspire others. When others practice, they inspire us. Together, we create a field of compassion that strengthens everyone. At the end of this journey, there is no final secret, no hidden treasure waiting. A treasure is the path itself. The secret is already in your hand. You have always had the ability to breathe, to love, to let go. These teachings are not distant. They are the mirror of your own heart. So as we conclude, let us plant seeds of hope. If you feel stress, know that peace is possible. If you feel trapped by money, know that generosity brings freedom. If you feel lost in conflict, know that compassion heals. If you feel anxious, know that presence restores. If you feel angry, know that forgiveness frees. If you feel depressed, know that kindness lifts. If you feel lonely, know that connection awaits. If you feel empty, know that meaning can be created. If you fear change, know that impermanence is life's beauty. If you cling in pain, know that letting go is release. And let us remember that no step is wasted. Even a single breath of mindfulness plants a seed. Even a single act of kindness changes the world. Even a single moment of letting go frees the heart. These small acts ripple outward, touching lives beyond what we can see. The path of the Buddha is not about perfection. It is about practice. It is about falling, rising, learning, and continuing. It is about walking with awareness, step by step. And it is about remembering that freedom is not at the end of the path, it is here, in each mindful step itself. So I invite you now to take this journey into your own life. Breathe deeply, love freely, forgive gently, give generously, live mindfully, and let go courageously. These are not just words. They are practices that transform the heart. One day, when you look back, you may see that the stresses that once felt unbearable became teachers. The losses that once broke you became gateways to wisdom. The fears that once trapped you became invitations to courage. The pains that once defined you became the soil for compassion. This is the miracle of the path, not that suffering disappears, but that it transforms into awakening. As the Buddha said, just as a lotus rises from the mud unstained, so too can the human heart rise from suffering into freedom. You too are that lotus. The mud of stress, fear, anger, and despair is not the end of your story. It is the ground from which your awakening grows. So let us close with peace. Let us close with hope. Let us close with a call to live awake. Not tomorrow, not someday, but now, this very breath, this very step, this very life.